at the top of the hill in their friend's backyard, but they couldn't really see much because there were bushes in the way. But then one of the bushes rustled and a humanoid pale creature crawled out. They described it as human looking but animalistic in the weirdest way. Its legs were long and its skin was pale. It looked like a mix of a dog and an extremely thin person. They quickly put out the cigarette and went inside. So the next day, the host of that gathering said he found that one of the boards of his wooden fence was broken, right behind the bush that the creature came out of. So it did happen. It wasn't just something that they saw. Number 3, hopping fences. So a woman who sleeps in the living room of her house since the other rooms are usually taken. A woman who sleeps in the living room of her house since the other rooms are taken usually spent her time outside on the porch, her own little space. Her backyard is pretty long and connects to an alleyway. So one night she was sitting on her porch, as she does, and she sees something standing in the alley. She told her kid later that it was a human figure, completely white and about 6.5 feet tall. It hopped their back fence with ease and started sprinting at her, disappearing a couple feet from the porch window. Once she unfroze from shock, she ran to the kitchen where her kid was and grabbed a knife from the sink, looking out the back door for the creature. Her kid was obviously a little bit confused, but understood the story once it was explained to her. On to number 2, climbing crawler. So SOKE1315 responded to a post with her own crawler sighting. For some context, she has an elevated back enclosed screen porch. So if someone walks past, usually only their top of head peeks over. Anyways, she had friends over and she was another person smoking a cigarette on her porch. She knew what different animals' footsteps sounded like from over the years and then heard something different from the usual. She felt dread but fought to convince herself every time she heard it that it was just a deer. Just a deer. So she moved from leaning on a post by the screen to the door into the house so that she could look out at the woods and not have, her back to whatever was happening. So the footsteps continued moving back and forth. She put out her cigarette and tossed it towards the ashtray by the screen, and then the thing that she had been hearing ran up to the screen, pressing its face right up to it. It had to be tall, maybe 8 feet, since she could see its chest up from the porch. It was humanoid with a bald head and dark eyes. It was abnormally pale white. It looked distorted and she couldn't make out other human features like ears. She booked it inside and her friend fell over in her chair as she saw it too. The group of friends then heard something on the roof. So they locked all entrances and huddled on the couch with knives out waiting for the police. They told them they feared they had an intruder as they were afraid the police wouldn't come if they told the truth of what they saw. And yes, another person huddling with a knife. Defend yourself. On to, last but not least, number 1, not the chickens. So in rural Missouri, Juggernaut 980 said that they had many experiences in what he thought was a forest school. His family had chickens in a coop when he was young, but something kept killing them. It would be fine for the first couple of months, but then something would tear open the wired fencing of the caged area and they would find 1 or 2 chickens torn up laying in the yard. His parents said, yeah, it's just wolves, wild dogs, or something. So his mom was the one who wanted the chickens, so there were 4 or 5 years where they would get batches of chickens only for them all to die. So then his mom gave up. She took those years off, but then when her son was in senior year, she wanted to try again. It was, again, good at first. But then the chickens were getting killed again. And this time, whatever it was killing them wasn't tearing through the fence, but peeling off the wire roof. Kinda hard for dogs. This was a 5 to 6 foot high cage, and the dad's old excuse of wild dogs just wasn't enough of an explanation anymore. So then one night, after driving his sister home from a party, he pulled into the yard next to the driveway. They were facing the chicken coop and his sister just started screaming. He described what he saw as if it was a golem from Lord of the Rings sitting on top of the chicken coop. Pale white with thin hair on the top of its head, red eyes that glowed in the headlight of the car, and it was hissing at them. He locked the car and flashed the brights and honked the horn, and it ran off into the woods. Their parents didn't believe them until a couple days later. Their dad heard the chickens screeching and went out with a gun to shoot the wild dogs. He came back white as a ghost and refused to talk about what he saw. Probably the same thing his children did. Yes.
Number 10. Mothman. So the Mothman is this big old flying dude with wings and red eyes. Floats around and you know what?
Camping World's garage sale is back. Join us on site for the biggest savings event of the year. Don't miss out on our incredible deals with aged and wholesale RVs starting as low as $3,500 and up to 70% off RV and outdoor accessories. We'll see you there.
Boo! Mothman sucks. Look, okay, I grew up in the area where this cryptid is supposedly like haunted, and you know what? Yeah, I did see him. You know, big old spooky red eyes flying around doing whatever. Oh no, he was near a bridge when it collapsed. He precipitated disaster. The only thing that actually happened to me when I saw him was just my house flooded, I failed all my final tests, and my girlfriend broke up with me. I mean, who even cares, right? God, Mothman is such a loser. Oh, I'm a big scary moth. Look at me. Oh, I'm mothing it up. No, I'm not bitter. Shut up. Number 9, Demon Cat. Good old Demon Cat. Making its home in Washington, D.C., this fiendish feline is known to stalk the White House and the United States Capitol building. Supposedly in the 1800s, cats were brought to the Capitol building as a means of combating the rat problem. And while they couldn't get all the politicians, some legends claim that one cat remained stalking the basements. It can only be seen prior to elections and other tragedies in Washington, supposedly having been seen before the assassinations of JFK and Lincoln. Why has this kitty stuck itself in the minds of those who have seen it? Well, apparently, when spotted, this cat actually grows to massive proportions, leaping at its viewer before just vanishing. Now, some blame the Capitol Police Force's poor screening for alcoholics at the source of this misunderstanding, as when viewed from the floor, anything might appear large. But as one guard was apparently taken by a heart attack upon seeing the categorical size of such the beast, who can really say for sure? Number 8, sewer alligators. Taking a big old bite out of the big old apple are our guys in green, the sewer gators. According to the New York Times, there's actually a massive problem with folks trying to keep alligators as pets within the city. But as for the ones that aren't caught, what might happen to their pets once they've outgrown their owners? Now, legend has it that in the 1930s, an infestation began, gators making their home within New York's stinky subsystems. Supposedly, they've clashed with the NYPD, who claimed to have vanished their bescaled opponents, though sightings have continued throughout the modern days. Likely their greatest impact was the inspiration for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, though I might just be making that up. Number 7, the Honey Island Swamp Monster. Better known as Le Bête Noire, this humanoid horror is reported to be located within the Honey Island Swamp in Louisiana. Described as walking on 2 legs and 7 feet tall, Le Bête Noire is reported to be preceded by a foul odor. Now, casts have been taken of its feet, showing a total of 4 toes, which indicates that it may not be related to humans or apes, as some legends claim that a crashed circus train may have allowed for a band of chimpanzees to escape into the wild, where they probably adapted to their environment and fell into legend. Knowing how circuses generally treat their animals, good for them. Number 6, lava bear. Discovered in the area surrounding South Central Oregon, the lava bears are a group of extremely small bears that have been observed emerging from the lava beds common to the area. Several hunters have claimed to have caught these ferocious beasts, which initially appeared to be bear cubs, but were in fact fully grown adults. Once news of this made rounds, the hunt for the bears was on, and in 1923, one was caught by a U.S. Forest Service trapper by the name of Alfred Andrews. Andrews was offered a reward for the bear's body, but turned it down in favor of parading it around the country, making quite a chunk of change on the side, until his partner stole the bear and vanished. Several other bears have been captured, and in 1924, one of the local high schools decided that its mascot would become the lava bear. It is also still their mascot. Seriously. Number 5, the black dog. Yeah, I put this in here to contrast the demon cat because I, think they should be friends. The black dog is a demonic creature originating in Europe, most famously in the story The Hound of the Baskervilles, but it's also been cited in the States. A beast with burning red eyes, W.H.C. Pynchon wrote, "If you meet the black dog once, it shall be for joy. If twice, it shall be for sorrow. And the third time shall bring death." Demonic dogs have been spotted in Connecticut and Massachusetts, and truckers have a saying where if you see one, it's time to pull over or a crash will be the least of your concerns. Number 4, Ludwig the Bloodsucker. Back to New York, and it turns out that gators aren't the only things looking to take a bite out of streetwalkers. Described as a 3-foot-tall German man, Ludwig the Bloodsucker is reported to be a local vampire. Now, legends claim that he was too minute to take down a German man and too ugly to seduce a German woman, woman, so he just booked it over to the States for easier pickings. Haunting the Bowery Street, several victims were left alive but incessantly mocked by the vampire, usually for their drunken stupor. Local newspapers reported about the man's habits, locating him as a German tailor by day. There are apparently even interviews where he goes on record to claim that blood is healthy and good eating. Mixed with the way that immigrants were treated at the time, I doubt that went over well. Number 3, Two-Toed Tom. Listen, there's a lot of gators in the States, but Two-Toed Tom might be the most famous. The story goes that this 14-foot alligator could be identified for having lost all but 2 toes to a trap and would eat farmers and their livestock. Now, fed up with the beast, many brave men would band together to hunt the reptile, but whether it was ex-military marksmen or dynamite-brandishing pharmacers, none could destroy this devil. Bored with Alabama, the gator was reported to have left its hunting grounds, apparently settling for Florida, where there would be more failed attempts to take down Two-Toes. 50 years later, a series of two-toed tracks were discovered near his old hunting ground, and the legend of Two-Toed Tom marches on. Number 2, Hodag. Now, this strange creature made its home in Wisconsin, described as possessing the head of a frog, the face of an elephant, short legs with massive claws, the back of a dinosaur, and a long spiked tail. Reported by land surveyor and trusted member of the community Eugene Shepard, he rounded up a group of brave hunters to capture the beast, an attempt which apparently required the usage of dynamite. Sending a picture of its remains to the media, they declared the safety of its primary food source for all time to come, the white bulldog. Thank goodness that the white bulldog may now roam Wisconsin once more. Alright, fine, it was a big hoax, and it was a really good one. Good enough that the local town decided to build a statue in honor of the beast. They also hold a festival in its name, which I've actually been to. But the effort that went into this hoax was actually quite extensive. And when Shepard had claimed to capture the creature, he even displayed it using a puppet show, piloting a wooden facsimile of the beast. Number 1, the Jersey Devil. Here's a real classic, the Jersey Devil, known for living in Jersey. Well, okay, taste and location aside, this creature is a sight to behold. A horse-like demon with bat wings and a forked tail. It was apparently born human, the 13th offspring of Mother Jane Leeds, who had cursed the unborn upon discovery of her pregnancy. Once born, the demon was revealed in all its horror and gave everyone in the room a highly motivated beatdown before yeeting itself up and out the chimney. There have been sightings of this creature throughout history, one of the most notable viewers being Napoleon's brother. Seriously. This creature has also been reported to be capable of surviving direct cannon fire, and in 1909 there were a slew of sightings which set off a search for the fabled devil. A search which
Estrogen is killing men. In the next 60 seconds, I'm going to tell you all about this sneaky hormone and what you can do to stop it. So first,
mostly ended in vain, even though there was a $10,000 reward that was promised for live capture. And, of course, someone then tried to submit a kangaroo with fake claws and bat wings. Anyways, it's just another reason not to go to Jersey, and it's just about as good of one as any.
At number 10, we have the Flatwoods Monster, aka Green Monster. So this being has been seen in Flatwoods, West Virginia, and gave it the moniker Home of the Green Monster. It's a 10-foot Frankenstein-like monster in the hills above Flatwoods. It's described as 10 feet tall with a blood-red body and a green face that seems to glow. It was hard to tell by witnesses at the time because of dense mist, but it may also have claws for hands. It was also accompanied by a noxious odor. Now, those that saw it were aged between 10 and 17 and were terrified and ran for their lives. The dog that was with them was frightened too, with the tail between their legs. Now, some say the creature may have come from a UFO that was sighted 5 months before this sighting, and locals who believe say the red-eyed creature could eat people alive and that they better watch out. So, maybe. Looks very futuristic and scientific, if you ask me. At number 9, we have Aswang. Aswang is a name given to various shape-shifting evil spirits in Filipino folklore. People say it stalks prey in the small, rural towns of the Philippines. It is a nocturnal hunter, specifically. During the night, they find prey and prefer children and pregnant women. They appear as regular townspeople by day. An Aswang may have reclusive habits or magical abilities, including the ability to shape-shift into dogs or pigs. They may also walk with their feet backwards, so that's something to look out for. Also, they have a proboscis tongue that they can use to suck blood from their victims. Very gross. And some may make doppelgangers of their victims that return to the victim's home, get sick, and die, to keep it a little more on the DL that they're killing. I guess. Now, some people say the folklore was used as an explanation for murders or infant and mother mortality rates. Others say it's real. On to number 8, Octoman of the Ohio River. So 5 people claimed to see it in the winter of 1959. They say they saw a gray-skinned kind of octopus-like creature. One man reported that something came out of the water and that it was just indescribable. Then another man, a truck driver, called the police and said, "It came out of the water. I can't describe it, and I have never seen anything like it before. All I want to do is get out of here and get on to Indianapolis." Okay. The police didn't seem to take it seriously, but anyone who reported it, they were shaken by it. Around the time these reports were popping up, lights that ran down 2 separate sides of a street on 2 different circuits went out, and authorities couldn't figure out why. So some people say that this Octoman might have triggered that. And then a man described only as a scientist in the news allegedly saw a large hulking creature along the rail of the bridge they were crossing. The description: strange grayish creature with a lopsided chest, ugly tentacles, and rolls of fat running horizontally over a bald head. So let me know if you see that description in the Ohio River. Number 7, staying in Ohio, let's have a look at Loveland Frogman, aka Loveland Lizard. So this lovely lizard or frog stands 4 feet tall. It's a frog humanoid figure spotted in Loveland, Ohio. According to legend, a local man reported seeing 3 frogmen with leathery skin, webbed hands, and feet on the side of the road in 1955. He said he saw one wield what looked like a wand that emitted sparks above its head and then ran away. So in 2016, one of these might have also scared 2 teenagers. They were playing Pokemon Go, as we do, between Loveland Madeira Road and Lake Isabella. They saw a giant frog near the lake that stood up and walked on its hind legs. So was it kind of reclusive after people saw its magic, or what happened? What's with the frogmen? I want to know. Really. On to number 6, Menehune. The Menehune are mythological dwarf or pygmy people that live in forests and hidden valleys of the Hawaiian Islands. Apparently, they're great at crafting too. So the Menehune are usually described as playful and even mischievous. They have distended bellies, they're described as, and they are hairy, muscular, and 2 or 3 feet tall with bushy eyebrows over large eyes. Apparently, they also speak in a low hum. This may be because they are shy creatures that sleep in caves during the day and work at night. As I said before, very mischievous. For example, Glip Gloop Glop said on the Cryptozoology Reddit that they took things from their campsite and returned them later, and possibly also stole a piece of cake. Just like a little bit of stuff interacting. But also other stories go that modern Hawaiians mingled with them and that they started using them for labor. And then after that, the Menehune retreated and hid from society because they were kind of being exploited. But historians also argue just about their actual existence, could be saying that it might just be folklore. Some stories go that children who live near the mountains can see them, but adults cannot. A school teacher in Hawaii said one of the kids she taught could see them, and it scared the child. One time the young girls saw 2 Menehune playing an old game with a lava rock and some sticks, and one looked over at her. When they locked eyes, the little girl was terrified, so she went and got a Hawaiian blessing. Felt better then. Then the school teacher herself saw weird lights popping up, and she was told later those were sacred lights. And then others also reported seeing those lights when they had Menehune, or what they thought were Menehune, interacting with them. So what's up? There's a water bottle company that is Menehune, so maybe they make good water. I don't know. But let's move on to number 5, Beast of Bray Road. So this could be a hairy humanoid creature with canine features. It was seen mainly in the 90s in Delavan and Elkhorn in Wisconsin. So local folklore called it a werewolf, but many cryptozoologists called it more of a Bigfoot because of the scientific issues associated with saying a human turns into a wolf, instead saying, no, maybe it just stays a wolf. Yeah. Also, others even just think it's more of a cryptid canine, and other names are the bearwolf and the indigenous dogman. Also, others commented it may be a black bear with sarcoptic mange. This is possible since there is a thriving black bear population in Wisconsin. Although they're more common in the upper third of Wisconsin, they have an expanding population that's below. And all in all, a person would be like, oh, why is there a black bear here, and why does it look kind of like a dog? Look at a picture for yourself, you'll get it. So one person's experience was when they were having a sleepover in the summer. They were playing hide and seek in the dark and saw something huge hunched over in a bush. It didn't appear to be any dog or wolf, as it was much too big to be as small as one of those. Its hind legs were thick and muscular like a man, but tapered at the abdomen and had a head like a wolf or canine. So they asked their dad, what is that scary creature? And when he tried to get a look, he had no idea either. So they all hightailed it inside, as I would too. Even if it is just a black bear with mange. Still something to be afraid of. On to number 4, Beast of Boggy Creek, another beast. And it's also known as the folk beast, or the folk monster, after the town it was reported in. In 1971, a man named Bobby Ford told the town constable that he was attacked at his house by a hairy creature that breathed heavily, had red eyes, and moved very fast. He also described it as 7 feet tall and 3 feet across at the chest. He was treated at a hospital for minor scratches and shock after his alleged attack. His wife, brother, and a hunting companion were also eyewitnesses. Other descriptions of it sound similar to a skunk ape. Those other descriptions said the folk monster smells like a mix of wet dog and skunk, which is the same alleged smell as a skunk ape. The folk monsters also said to swing its arms like a monkey, so maybe a stinky Florida ape. I mean skunk ape. Same thing. It's funny if you look at pictures of stinky Florida ape, skunk ape comes up. On to number 3, Manananggal. So either seen as a man-eating, blood-sucking monster or witch, this Manananggal is described as scary, hideous, and often female. It has wide eyes, long hair, and can sprout fangs and claws. Legends say it also severs its torso and sprouts bat wings to fly off and find its next prey. Its name comes from the Tagalog word tangal, which means to remove or separate. It splits its body to transform and then find its victims. Similar to the aswang, it preys on people who sleep and pregnant women. It is also said to target grooms since it may have been a woman that was left at the altar. Similar to the folklore, vampires, they are said to detest garlic and salt, and so to defeat one, you simply find their weaker lower half and sprinkle some garlic and salt on it. Just by Odin. Done. But let's move on to number 2, Mokele Mbembe. So the name means one who stops the flow of rivers, and that's because it's probably pretty huge. It's said to be a cryptid that resembles a brontosaurus, and Ivan Sanderson, a biologist, even documented its existence. So maybe not all dinos were wiped out by a meteor. Who knows? It's been spotted in the Congo, and while some say it's like its look-alike the brontosaurus, which was most likely a herbivore, some say it's allegedly a carnivore, with some saying it eats hippos. Hippos. Also, anything that can eat hippos is something to fear. I know hippos, they look really cute, but they're so dangerous. They have run as fast as 30 kilometers an hour over short distances and are very aggressive. Their teeth are huge, and they could crush you to death under their weight. So, if Mokele Mbembe can take them on, you should watch out too. All I'm saying. And if they're running away from it, you could be crushed while they're running away from the Mokele Mbembe. Also, it's just a fun word to say. At number 1, we have Grootslang, or Grootslang. Just roll the R. The Grootslang, also known as the Groot slang, is Afrikaans or Dutch for big snake, because it is one big snake. It is a legendary...
What was the process of actually putting this all together?
Many hours of finding the right camera angles and watching it. The first trouble started just after 1 o'clock.
45 pages, here it is right here.
Somber day for the country.
The founder of the Oath Keepers militia group is headed to prison for more than 18 years.
His lawyers didn't have this
No.
video. The video we're watching right now, his own lawyers did not
No.
have. There was a big question of what did the people do who actually did enter the building.
This is where we picked it up with the security footage that is new. At this point, the story dramatically changes.
The New Jersey man who assaulted a Capitol police officer on January 6th has been sentenced.
So this was withheld.
This was not shown to the defense.
That could be considered exculpatory evidence.
or mythological cryptid that allegedly lives in the Richtersveld in South Africa. It is said to either be a huge elephant-like creature with a serpent's tail or a humongous snake with an elephant's face and gems for eyes. Either way, very creepy. It's claimed to lure elephants into its cave, aka the Wonder Hole or the Bottomless Pit. Sound very different. So the cave is said to connect to the sea that is 40 miles away, and it's said to have many diamonds. The thing is, this beast is in there with those precious gems, so might not go for the diamonds. Some say it likes gems, and explorers can bargain for their freedom by offering enough loot to the Grootslang, sorry. But either way, I'd say don't go out hunting for it, you know?
Coming at number 10, we have the Super Mario Shadow People. Super Mario Galaxy is a game known for pure fun, bright colours, familiar faces, and a whole lot of bouncing around on little stars. It's also gained a reputation for featuring the Shadow People. At the beginning of the Shiverburn Galaxy level, strange shadowy figures can be seen at the top of the cliff in the background. Now at first, many people brushed this off as just people's imagination running wild. Then someone took the initiative to look through the game files. They found that the name of the background image is called Hell Valley Sky Tree. Who said anything about Hell Valley? The internet exploded with conversation about this. Who were these shadow people always watching you, even though you can never get any closer to them? And nobody even mentions them in the game. Some people have tried to explain these away as just trees, but others say, I ain't seen no tree that looks like that. It's one of those things where if Nintendo actually acknowledged it, it may not be so creepy. But the fact that they have still refused to means people are left wondering who the shadow people of Hell Valley are. Next up at number 9 now, we have the Hall of Tortured Souls. This is a well-known Easter egg that was hidden in the coding of Windows 95. Deep in the software, there is a hidden game there. Nobody knows who found it first, but this is how you find it. To enter the game, go to Microsoft Excel 95. Open a new blank Excel worksheet. Go down to the 95th row and select the whole row. Tab over to column B, go to Help/About, tap and hold Ctrl-Alt-Shift, and then click the tech support button. Then the game will appear. It's called Hall of Tortured Souls. Players use their arrow keys to move in 8 different directions. Eventually, you will find a staircase. The walls are surrounded by text with the names of the creators on. On the next level, there is a small room with red walls. Again, the names of the creators will flash up on the screen. Go down a bit and enter the room where you were before. Type the magic word Excel KFA. Another room will open where you have to follow zigzagging black paths. Eventually, you will find the end of the game. A picture of the developers of the software. The whole thing is a little bit unnerving. Even though the game has been discovered and completed at this point, many people are creeped out by its name. Hall of Tortured Souls. They feel there may be something much darker hidden deeper in that game. Maybe one of you guys will be the one to find it. Next up at number 8 now, we have Polybius. Some call this the most dangerous video game ever made. The story begins in Portland, 1981. A local arcade hall was attracting more visitors than normal. All the games were busy, but only one had a long line of people wanting to play it. A new game, Polybius. The players couldn't stop playing it. When they were finally forced off it, they began to act strangely. They said they felt nauseous, stressed, and had terrifying nightmares. Others had seizures. There were even reports of all the madness forcing people to suicide. The one common thing that everyone felt was that they were unable to control their own thoughts anymore. Then, people began to notice that the game was being serviced a lot more than usual. Other games might get checked by technicians maybe once a month, but Polybius was being checked every single week. Men in black suits would come, record its data, and then leave. They would never take the coins and seemed to have no interest in the money it had made. After a while of this, the mysterious arcade game vanished as soon as it arrived, taken by the very same men in suits. People believed that the men and the machine were from the CIA, that it was all part of a mind control program, an experiment that was sending subliminal messages to players. So, was there any truth to this? Well, that's the faith you kind of need to put into the story. The story has been repeated and spread for almost 40 years now, but it's very hard to verify as the arcade machine and the men who monitored it disappeared without a trace. If this program has continued to modern times though, perhaps they've just got better at hiding their experiments in your games. Next up at number 7 now, we have the ghost of GTA 5. It's been almost 5 years now since GTA 5 was released, and by now it seems that players really have discovered every last secret and Easter egg the game has been hiding. One of them does stick out as a lot more creepy than others though. Near the peak of Mount Gordo, there is a flat rock on the ground which bears the word Jock written in blood. Between 11 PM and midnight in the game, the player can see the ghost of a woman appear near the rock with long black hair and wearing a white dress. She is said to be the ghost of Jolene Cranley Evans. She was the wife of Jock Cranley, a famous stunt double in the game from years ago. Story goes that she didn't want to move from their home near Mount Gordo to the city of Los Santos so that Jock could pursue his stunt double career. He took her up for a walk on the mountain and pushed her off, where she fell to her death. He was arrested but released due to lack of evidence. Now she haunts the mountain in the game. If players go to a nearby campsite, they can hear screaming or an incomprehensible whispering sound which, if played backwards, says, "Let's see your shot." The final creepy thing is that if you try to approach this ghost, she will vanish straight into the night. Next up at number 6 now, we have Luigi is dead. There's something you Luigi fans never want to hear. However, there are clues in some Super Mario games that he really is. In Luigi's mansion, during the blackout that happens after the boss battle of Area 3, Luigi journeys to the telephone room and answers 2 calls. During these calls, while Luigi is holding the phone to his ear, the player must wait until there is a lightning flash, and then they will see that Luigi's shadow has been twisted into a way that looks like he's been hanged. Now, some people say this shadow is the metaphorical shadow of a much darker game that was actually meant to be released, or that they just forgot to take this part out. Others say this was intentional and a nod from the developers to the fact that Luigi has been dead for for many years now. He killed himself after always having to live in the shadow of his more
literally
popular
fucking
and famous
frozen.
brother.
Who does he
Nintendo
think he is,
says it's
Itachi?
just a glitch, but others say that's just a cover-up. And as much as Nintendo fans don't want to hear it, Luigi is dead. Next up at number 5 now we have Lavender Town. Those of you that have played the original Pokemon games on Game Boy may already be familiar with how creepy the Lavender Town theme music is. I mean, the whole town is based around dead Pokemon. That's kind of the point, but there is a story that goes way deeper and darker than you know. Following the release of Pokemon Red and Green, there were a number of reported child suicides in Japan. When players got to Lavender Town, the music had a strange effect on them. Let's hear it really quick as a reminder. People said the song was created with a hidden code in it that would drive children to kill themselves. Subliminal code used very high frequencies, ones that only young kids can hear and not adults. This became known as Lavender Town Syndrome. Supposedly, 200 children committed suicide in Japan because of this, and many more developed illnesses and afflictions. The children who committed suicide usually did so by hanging or jumping from heights. Those who did not succumb to the suicidal pull still complained of severe headaches after listening to the Lavender Town theme. According to the legend, the developers in Japan were forced to fix the song's frequency to be at a lower frequency before international release. That's the safe version that you and I and many other people have heard. They say the real version can still be found out there, waiting for its next victim. Moving on to number 4 now, we have the Xbox Voices. When the Xbox was first released in 2001, it was praised for its power and cutting-edge technology. Microsoft didn't really want to waste all of that when the console.
So Bespoke Post, they just send you a cool box every month.
Whoa.
The value of every box is at least around $70, if not more. It's a pretty smoking deal. Beginning a month, they send you an email. You check out what they're going to put in your box. If you dig it, you don't need to do anything else. But if you don't like it, check out the other box offerings for the month and see if maybe there's something that you would like. Or you can just say, no thanks. And they won't charge you the monthly fee. It's really cool that you can just skip it or select different boxes. They just don't send you a box. Some of these kind of services like this, every month you just get a box and you don't have a choice behind it. So I like the customization that Bespoke lets you do.
Wasn't being used, and so they added some ambient noises which played while it was idle. These noises started out normal at first but quickly got very strange. People said it kind of sounded like the console was channeling voices from the dead. Naturally, people wanted answers from Microsoft. Was this some sort of subliminal messaging? Was it supposed to influence dreams when players fall asleep with the console on in their room? Well, the company said it wasn't actually even their own music. It was public domain audio from NASA transmissions from the Apollo missions. For those of you that don't know, these were the missions that went to the moon. If you think you can handle it, I'd recommend listening to the whole thing. People report hearing robotic voices, whispers, and even Halloween music. Either people are seriously imagining things, or Microsoft and NASA have some explaining to do. Next up, number 3 now, we have Kill Switch. This game is just straight up creepy, if it does actually exist. You see, back in 1989, this game was released in which the player had the choice of playing either a Ghast or a Porto. It was nearly impossible to play as Ghast because he was invisible, which meant that almost everyone chose Porto. Items you found appeared at the bottom of the screen. You find pieces of a tape recorder and could listen to events that transformed the mine you're in into the hell that it became. The game was eerie, hollow, empty, confusing, and just creepy all round. But the weirdest part is yet to come. The story goes that if anyone does complete the game, Kill Switch is designed to self-terminate. It deletes all traces of itself on the person's computer like it was never there at all. This is bad news because only a reported 5,000 copies were ever made. Apparently this continued to happen until every last copy was wiped and the company who made the game vanished from existence. A small community of people are trying to replicate the game based on the stories they've heard, but it's slow work. And many people feel it's not worth the trouble it could ultimately bring. Moving on to number 2 now, we have Herobrine. Any of you guys who have played Minecraft will surely have heard of this character. When you first play the game, you'll have the ordinary standard skin. Now one day, early in the game's history, a player said he spawned in a brand new single player world. He was playing the game as normal, mining and building, when he saw something moving amongst the dense fog. He thought it was a cow and so chased it. It wasn't though. Staring back at him was a character that had the default skin, but his eyes were empty. There was no name above his head. He double checked to make sure he wasn't actually in a multiplayer server, and he wasn't. The character quickly ran off and disappeared. As the game went on, strange things kept happening. Parts of the game looked like someone had actually been there before, even though this was single player. Every once in a while he claimed to see the strange doppelganger watching him from the fog. After posting this story to the forums, he received a message from a user called Herobrine. It simply said, "Stop." Eventually he and some others found that Herobrine was the name of a Swedish player, possibly the brother of Notch, who is the creator of Minecraft. They asked Notch if he had a brother. He replied, "I did, but he is no longer with us." Thus, the legend was spawned of the creator's dead brother living on in the game's coding, watching players, watching every player, unaware of the afterlife he's ended up in. And finally, number one now, guys, we have Berserk. This was a very popular arcade game, first released back in 1980 and was a great success and highly addictive. However, it will always be remembered as the first game to be linked to the deaths of some of its players, 3 to be precise. The first was said to be Jeff Daly. He allegedly entered his initials twice in the Berserk machine's top 10 players list before dying of a heart attack. His score was 16,660. People say if you remove the binary numbers of 1 and 0, you get 666. The next victim was Jeff's friend, a guy called Peter Bukowski. Now, according to the arcade owner where this machine was housed, Peter arrived and began playing Berserk at 8:30 p.m. He was a top student who hoped to become a doctor one day. He was also very good at arcade games. After 50 minutes of playing, he posted his initials next to 2 high scores on the leaderboard. He then took 4 steps away, put a quarter into a different game, and then collapsed dead from a heart attack. The third death was said to happen to a guy who got into a fight over a quarter that was meant to be put into the Berserk machine. He was stabbed to death. Of course, people began to connect the dots and became convinced that this arcade machine had something to do with all the deaths. It's rare that a kid dies during or just after playing any video game, but 3 all connected to the same one. You can see why the legend of Berserk has persisted.
Starting us off at number 10 is SCP-6789. Back in 1986, a strange occurrence was happening where people kept going into the Himalayan mountains but not returning, which was quite unusual. The few that did end up coming back shared that they heard an extremely loud ringing alarm sound as they tried to leave. It was apparently so loud that they had to cover their ears, yet a lot of them still suffered from partial or complete hearing loss. They didn't know it at the time, but that was because of Siren Head, aka SCP-6789. The SCP Foundation proceeded to evacuate the area before trying to figure out where the source of the noise was coming from. When they finally got 10 meters away from it, it rang another alarm sound that killed half the team in milliseconds. The rest made a run for it, but ended up becoming deaf as a result. Autopsy results of the deceased showed that the alarm had caused their brains to explode, and that is no joke. Now, seeing the threat of this creature, the Foundation bombed the area and restrained the creature in their foundation. Where is it now? God knows. 40 feet, I'm 5'4", that's actually 8 of me. God damn. Coming in at number 9 is the Tornado Siren. This encounter was shared by Reddit user Ubisoft is awful, who said their friends decided to go walking in the forest of the area they lived in because apparently people just like doing stupid shit. The group was full of skeptics, none of them believed in anything supernatural, let alone Siren Head related, so they had no fear. A few hours passed and the group saw nothing, but out of nowhere, one of the friends called Jake said, "Did you hear that?" The user said no, but Caleb, another friend, agreed that he had heard something as well. And then it finally hit the user. It sounded like a tornado siren coming from really far away, and it freaked out the group so much that they decided to leave the woods. The more they walked, the louder the siren got, and eventually the siren sounds became shrill screams. It was night at this point and none of the kids had any signal on their phones, so aka they were screwed. Now, they were close to being out of the woods, but obviously the story wasn't going to end in an happily ever after. They never do. The group then saw this gigantic creature with huge swinging limbs and sirens in place of its head. The group started running, but the sounds were only getting louder and closer. The ground then started shaking, and now the group were proper screaming. The sirens started mimicking the group's screams, and the user spotted a cabin in the distance and ran into it before Siren Head could get to her as well. When she finally opened the door the next morning, her friends were nowhere to be found. No one believed anything she said, and she still hasn't gone back to those same woods since. I mean, who would? At number 8, we have the Pennsylvania happenings. Apparently, Siren Head has taken a major liking to the state of Pennsylvania since there have been numerous sightings of the creature there over the years. In 1984, a group of 4 teenagers decided to go camping in Allegheny National Park, and all was well to begin with. But after spending 4 days camping, the parents of the group started freaking out since they should have been back by then. The parents reported them missing, and a few days later, one of the teenagers in the group showed up at his house alone. He was visibly shaken and disoriented, and when his family asked where everyone was, he said they were taken by something huge and lanky in the woods. No remains of the others were ever found. The second Pennsylvania incident took place in 1992, a full 8 years after the first one. A drifter claimed he had seen some creature as tall as a telephone pole with speakers hanging off it near New Hope. He didn't go near the creature since he wasn't a dumbass, but he reported that it sang an old song. I wonder what that song was. Hopefully something nice, you know? Filling at number 7 slot is Catherine. Back in 1978, 9-year-old Catherine decided to investigate the bizarre sounds coming from the woods behind her house's backyard. She ventured into the woods alone at night, never to be seen again. Her sister claimed Catherine had heard their mum calling them, but that simply just couldn't have been true. Their mum wasn't home, and the voice sounded wrong. It sounded distorted and just way too echoey. Can you imagine this tiny 9-year-old girl being taken by this 40-foot monstrosity? God knows what it did to her, but considering she vanished, my bets are on him either having eaten her or just plain murdered her. None of which are appetizing, my friends.
Hey yo, it's Jim Hamill with Pocono Television Network here at Serenite atop Camelback Mountain, and I've got Amanda Gavilanis with us here. She's the Director of Operations for Serenite. We're going to go on a little tour here of these fantastic properties. Amanda, thanks for taking us.
Of course. Welcome to our beautiful residences. Please come take a look. You'll be excited.
We had always pictured, having a club where people can get away, not have to worry about the overhead, the maintenance of a second home. You just get a chance to get away in the Pocono Mountains, enjoy doing nothing except coming in, getting out of town, whether hitting the ski mountain in the wintertime, or there's a number of different summer activities.
You have all the space in the world. You can cook with your family, eat some breakfast. At the island, we got the living room right off the kitchen.
And you've got everything here for people when they show up on site.
You want to cook? We have plates, we have coffee, Keurig.
The views on camera are always beautiful, but it's different when you're seeing the mountains in real life. You just get that natural sense of peace, which is kind of the genesis of the name Serenite. It's just a peaceful place where you can get away and just kind of not worry about the daily life stuff. The view is one of the killer things about Serenite. Where you guys are positioned, you can look right over on the slopes at Camelback. Wow, you can really see really far right now.
Yep, Stellar Water Gap, cannot miss it.
We have great accommodations, beautiful location right on top of the North Ridge. And then the surrounding area, there's something to do 365 days out of the year in the Poconos. How many bedrooms?
5 bedrooms, 6 beds, downstairs basement, also has a wet bar. So you can host NFL type things, board game nights, all that kind of stuff. Or if you just want to throw the teenagers down there, it's a great spot as well. Perfect place to make drinks, definitely over here.
It's a private residence club, which means it is members only.
No, it's members.
Now at number 6 is Chad. Chad. There are some novel male names that you just know are going to cause you trouble, like they're the ones your parents warned you about. Chad is one of them. Chad is going to lead you on for a month, sleep with you, and then ghost the shit out of you, but not before he tells his best friends Brad and Tyler, because otherwise the trifecta just wouldn't be complete. Chads are trouble, you guys, and that was no different on July 16th, 1995. Chad and his friends went hiking in the woods of Tanya Creek in Arkansas and saw what they thought was Siren Head in the distance. We don't know what truly happened in the woods after that, but according to Chad, his friends were taken by some enormous beings striding through the trees. It was apparently copying their voices and luring them out one by one to either kidnap or kill them. Or, Chad just let Siren Head have them as bait so he could escape himself, but who knows? He did sustain some injuries though, so maybe he was telling the truth, or maybe he was just committed to making his story look real and inflicted them himself. We don't know. Do we trust Chad? Do we not trust Chad? I don't know. I don't trust Chad. Coming in at number 5 is the Park Ranger. Back in 1990, a park ranger at Kings Canyon National Park found a man clinging to a tree branch 20 feet off the ground. Despite trying to talk to him many times, the man did not respond to a single word that came out the ranger's mouth. Confused but eager to help, the ranger radioed in for some help and went on his way. By the time rescue operations finally arrived at the scene, that man was dead, and most of the tissue on his face, like his eyes and eardrums, had mysteriously ruptured. I mean, I don't want to state the obvious here, but I wonder which 40-foot tall creature is loud as hell and can rupture people's bodies. Siren Head. That's it. At number 4 is the jog. This one was submitted by an anonymous Redditor who said she was going on an evening jog one day when she realized it was basically empty outside. Now usually there were some cars around or a few joggers here and there, or at least someone walking their dog, but today there was no one. 15 minutes into her jog, she heard this piercing white noise sound that was physically hurting her brain. Unable to continue on with her jog, she decided to sit down on the trail she was on and wait till the sound stopped. But as you can probably guess, it did not. It got louder and the user couldn't take it anymore, so she eventually passed out. When she woke up, she felt like she was being carried by something, and she was damn right. She looked down to see herself 40 feet off the ground, and she was like, what the hell is this? When she looked up, she saw Siren Head taking her to what I'm guessing was its lair or house or cave or hellhole, I don't know, whatever it came from. But when the creature realized she was awake, it started blaring its siren again, and she lost consciousness once again, only to wake up in the same place she passed out on the trail. Now, was it a dream? Was it real? Beats me! Filling number 3 slot is the photo. Apparently someone managed to snap a picture of Siren Head on the streets of Indiana a few years ago, which is very odd considering it's usually only spotted in wooded areas where it can hide, somewhat. Not how camouflage it expects to be at 40 feet tall, but good effort, mate. Either way, after the picture was made public, locals in the area started hearing a strange siren sound, and then slowly but surely, people started disappearing. I couldn't find any other information about the story, so I don't know any more details about how screwed up this is, unfortunately. Siren Head was probably pissed, like, you're not gonna let me take my game to the metropolitan level? I'ma just start snatching all of you off your damn streets. Nowhere is safe. Now, at number 2 is the bike crew. This one was shared by Reddit user Eugene8, who said he lives in a rural part of Montana called Stevensville. In town, there was one man who eluded everyone called Jamie Kelson, and he lived on the edge of town. The user was the town's paper boy, and at the end of his route that day, he was on his way to Jamie's house. He was going uphill on his bike when he started hearing the tornado siren. Now, initially, he didn't think anything of it, since tornadoes were quite common, but the siren was so alarming, and even more so considering the sky was clear. It didn't look like tornado weather, so he was like, what is this? Slowly but surely, the siren sound started getting closer to the user, and then the ground started shaking, throwing him off his bike. When he looked up, he saw this gigantic head cresting a hill 700 feet away. Slick and metallic, the creature had tubes and wires going through it that somehow looked like its veins. 40 feet tall, its arms were so long they reached the damn ground. It had no eyes, yet it was still looking in its direction somehow. Petrified at this point, he picked up the bike and rode for his life, eluding Siren Head once and for all. And finally, at number 1 are voices. This one was shared by the same Reddit user, Eugene8.
I ain't gonna hold you.
Happened the next day at
Certain
1:30 a.m. The user Robert was awoken to the sound of a voice.
Like game modes in this, it's hard as shit.
Friend's voice. That would be normal, but she had disappeared a year prior, so this was blowing his mind and tugging at his heartstrings. She kept saying, Robert, it's me, I'm back. He went outside towards the noise, but the louder it got, the more he wanted to find her. It was like she was saying it right in his ear. That's when Siren Head came out from the town hall. In his hand was the corpse of the town's mayor, and at this point, Robert started screaming for help, and it started chasing him. He got to his house, and his dad opened the door, rifle in hand. He shot it 3 times and kept shooting, but the beast just was not going down. It started emitting white noise from its sirens so loudly that it burst his dad's eardrums, and they started bleeding. His neighbors started coming out and shooting the beast at this point, and even started chasing it, because obviously in America all your neighbors have guns, right? It is what it is. Robert ended up dragging his dad back into the house, but the neighbors that chased Siren had vanished into thin air. And you can bet your ass he never rode to Jamie Kelson's house ever again.
In our number 10 spot, we have Nessie is real. Okay, guys, the Loch Ness Monster is real. At least that's what I think after watching this recent video shot from the air, looking down upon the water. There is literally a long neck looking dinosaur in the water, and it has to be Nessie himself. Herself? Is Nessie a girl? This is definitely some footage that has been buried deep by the governments of the world, including the FBI. And why, you may ask? Damn, I don't know. Perhaps the discovery of this ancient creature could mean that there's more magical creatures out there. It could mean that there is a portal to a new world in the lake. Or perhaps it means that the wizarding world of Harry Potter is real. Anyways, this video I think is substantial proof that the cryptid that is known as the Loch Ness Monster is in fact real. If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to smash that like button as it really helps us out. In our number 9 spot, we have the deep sea cryptid. Okay, this footage blew my mind when I saw it. I personally think this is proof of yet another mythical ocean creature slash cryptid that we are unaware of yet. The ocean is so big and mysterious, I bet you even mermaids exist. In August of 2018, the Japan Agency of Marine Earth Science and Technology, when they found something in the waters of Sagami Bay near Tokyo. A big creature with big glowing eyes and a gaping mouth. Now at first it appears to move, but as the camera gets closer, it appears to freeze in place. And so, since we don't see it move much, some people say that it's an illusion of a creature and that it's really just a rock that looks like it has eyes, as humans have a tendency to see faces in inanimate objects. But what if it's a creature that became aware of the fact that it was being watched and so it froze to look like a rock? This creature legit looks like it stepped right out of Monsters, Inc. I don't know. Anyways, this footage could be nothing or could be everything, and that's why it's possible that it's being marketed as possibly nothing.
Yes, you're good at your job, but your processes though... With Money.com, things can be different. And here's how. First, you can easily create a workflow for your team to stay aligned and work together smoothly. Congrats, you're all on the same page. Now let's save some time. You and your team can automate repetitive actions and even
Good shit,
entire
my guys.
workflows. For example, when a task...
In our number 8 spot, we have the hide behind. I had no idea what this was before I researched this video, but apparently there is an ancient creature known as a hide behind. And these creatures used to hide in forests and were nocturnal, and they would prey upon humans that wander the woods, such as lumberjacks. They are said to be able to conceal themselves. The creature quickly hides behind an object so it's not directly seen. This is how it's able to attack human prey, by stalking them from afar and not be seen. Anyways, now that you know what a hide behind is, this video that was captured by a grandmother certainly shows a creature that looks just like a hide behind. A shadow, if you will. If this video was not staged, and it is real, like they claim, then I definitely think this is proof of some kind of hide behind or mythical creature. Perhaps it's Bigfoot, but certainly this shadowy figure doesn't seem completely normal. In our number 7 spot, we have the Kraken. The giant squid known around the world as the Kraken is an enormous squid-like sea monster originally from Scandinavian folklore. People believe tales of the creature were created after fishermen spotted giant squid out on the water. Anyways, recently something very mysterious was discovered when zooming into the middle of the sea on Google Earth. A strange, large creature that appears to light up and looks to be very large and is creating a wake. Google Earth's measuring tool has shown that the wake is over 250 meters wide. This picture has surely had the FBI concerned, as the internet has been going crazy trying to figure out if that's a kraken, an ancient dinosaur-like fish, or an alien craft that perhaps crashed into the water or is in the water. Without a doubt, though, there's something mysterious going on there. Where is the light coming from, my friends? My vote is for alien craft. That makes more sense in terms of where the light is coming from. In our number 6 spot, we have the alien sea creature. This may be our biggest piece of proof that aliens might live underneath us or in the water. This video captured from a Brazilian beach was buried deep online, probably by the FBI because of its mysteriousness. It showcases a very strange looking creature in the water that looks just like every picture of an alien that I've ever seen. Ever think about where we originally got our idea for how aliens look? Yeah, well, probably from meeting them, or possibly from seeing creatures like this. This creature looks like it has arms and legs and is just walking around the shore and isn't seemingly looking threatening, just going about and doing its thing. It was described as a jellyfish-like monster. If that isn't an alien, then please explain to us what that is. Conclusion? It's an alien sea creature. In our number 5 spot, we have the baby dragon. A video was shot showing a creature in a pond that literally looks exactly like the ancient Chinese dragon that we see in folklore. Or they look like Khaleesi's dragons when they were babies. Game of Thrones, anyone? Anyways, this video is wild. It's very, very strange. This creature is exactly like every image of a dragon that I'm sure you've ever seen, and it is just swimming around in the water. Dragons are so embedded into many cultures, and over many civilizations, people believed in dragons, and so it just makes you think perhaps they were once real, or perhaps they are real. It's possible, though, that the old civilizations just stumbled across dinosaur bones that made them think fire-breathing dragons were real too. That's very possible. But in any case, this specific video hasn't been proven to be real, so it's possible that it's fake. But if it were to be real, I'm sure a narrative would be spun around it, because that would be a massive discovery that humans may not be ready for. In our number 4 spot, we have Bigfoot. Look, there are so many stories and supposed sightings of the Mudman, Bigfoot, and honestly, this one is the most interesting one yet. A trail cam was deep in the woods when it captured a giant creature walking through the wood. It might be behind a row of trees, but it is clear as day that this creature is big, whatever it is. It appears to have hands and feet. It doesn't move like a bear. It moves like an oversized human. So this could very well be the best footage of Bigfoot that I've ever seen. Apparently, the people that took this footage tend to upload footage of animals and bears and have no drive to tamper with the footage, so a lot of people believe it to be real. Also, apparently after this, they set up more trail cams in the hopes of seeing it again, but all of the additional cams went missing.
Damn right, I summoned the goddamn
That's a smart
spirit
Bigfoot
bear.
right there. Making sure to watch the humans and get rid of all the evidence. Anyways, I think this is definitely footage the FBI would be worried about, so they themselves could have destroyed the trail cams. In our number 3 spot, we have the Blue Mountains Panther. The Blue Mountains Panther is a creature from Australian folklore that is essentially a giant panther that lives in the mountains of Australia. This panther has had sightings for centuries. However, Australia isn't known to have any kind of panther on the continent. Anyways, a picture of what looks like a giant cat-like creature, most likely a panther, was caught on camera, and it's had Australia in a tizzy. It's the Blue Mountain Panther, everyone thinks. It's clear as day that it's a cat-like creature, and it looks like a panther. If it is not this mythical creature, then what is it? Would love to know your thoughts in the comment section below. In our number 2 spot, we have Sasquatch. This next footage is really interesting and something I know has been buried because of the sheer amount of people that can confirm its validity. While on a ski slope, a bunch of skiers had to stop as they appeared to see a giant in the woods. Everything you have ever heard about Sasquatch would describe what these people saw. Hairy, ape-like, living in the woods. The footage captured shows it trying to hide, but without a doubt, it was seen by many, and that would certainly put a dent in the theory that Sasquatch is a mythological creature. Some people think that our human ancestors or relatives could have survived into the modern era, and so this creature could just be a human ancestor. If this is true, then 1, there must be 2 of them to have continued on the species like this, or 2, if there's only 1, is this an immortal human ancestor from centuries ago? The latter would certainly be cooler. We discovered how to fly in the sky. Perhaps we humans have discovered everlasting life, and the general public just doesn't know about it yet. Side thought. In our number 1 spot,
imagine a car that goes as far as it does fast, as sleek as it is spacious.
an elf. On a First Nation reserve in Saskatchewan, a strange creature was caught on camera that quite possibly the FBI doesn't want you to see. In the video, you see a creature go behind a large rock when the person recording the video turns their light on. It's kind of hard to make out exactly what it is. Some people think that it's an elf, or a fairy, or a wendigo, a type of shape-shifting creature that is evil. Honestly, I don't know what it is, but it appears to be some kind of mythical creature. People have been reporting seeing this monster for thousands of years, and so it makes you think that there might be something to this video, and it could very well showcase something no human has officially been able to confirm before on camera. I hope it's an elf. That sounds way better than an evil shapeshifter. If elves exist, they should just come and live among us. I bet you us humans would accept them. How could we not? They're so cute and cool.
Starting us off at number 10, Dark Watchers. So Dark Watchers are humanoid beings ranging from 7 to 15 feet tall. They are cloaked figures, sometimes with wide-brimmed hats that have been reported to melt and merge with shadows. If you spot one, they can disappear within the blink of an eye. They are mainly spotted in California. The earliest sightings are by the native Chumash tribe, whose oral history of the Old Ones goes back centuries. The Old Ones are said to observe from a distance. As recently as 2018, a man said he encountered one. He was hiking up a remote trail and came upon a dark figure. He waved as a joke, not thinking it was a person, and it waved back. Then, he thought he might just be tripping out or something, so he took a puff of his cigarette, and then the figure blew out a plume of smoke as well. And if that wasn't trippy enough, it started flowing and nearly floating vertically, so the man ran back to his car. If you ever encounter one, don't be too wary. They're not known to harm anyone as long as they're not disturbed, so just keep on your merry way and you should be fine. At number 9, Tizaruk. So the Tizaruk is a sea serpent found in Alaskan folklore that roams Alaska's waters. It's described as 7 feet long with the tail ending in a flipper. The total length is about 12 to 15 feet long. It's also called a Cadborosaurus from one academic suggestion. This led to the nickname Caddy being given to the sea serpent that's occasionally spotted. It's been said to snatch people from docks and piers. So a video came out in 2009 claiming that it was a Tizaruk, but some say it was a herd of sea lions. Mysterious sea serpents are rumored all around the world. Shout out to Nessie, and I think Caddy is believable. As recently as 2016, a new species of whale was discovered in Alaska's waters, so really we can't rule out the existence of something else out there. So Tizaruk, Caddy, whatever you call it, Alaska might have it for you. Maybe go take a peek. Hit up Alaska. Why not? On to number 8, the Wampus Beast. So this cryptid is also known as a Wampus cat. It is a jet black panther cat creature with glowing eyes. It's mainly seen in Appalachia. So Cherokee folklore says it was a woman wearing hides to spy on her husband, but guards caught her and cast spells on her. This caused the hide she was wearing to form onto her. One rumor says that the Wampus Beast lives in sewers. But anyways, one story goes that a 9-year-old boy saw this beast late at night. His parents told him to get something from the shed. He went out and came face to face with a jet black panther-like creature with glowing eyes, just as we described. The creature gave a weird high-pitched hissing-like sound, which then frightened the boy to go back inside to his house. Then, years later, on the same farm, the boy had another encounter with the beast. He lost a lot of pigs to the beast, but he did escape the encounter with his life. Number 7, gargoyle. So, you might be familiar because the term gargoyle is used in architecture, but it is also a term to describe cryptids that resemble the gargoyles we see in architecture. They are described as roughly humanoid monsters with leathery bat-like wings. They resemble the popular conceptions of demons, pretty much. So a popular example of a gargoyle is the Gargoyle of Glastonbury. This gargoyle supposedly haunts researchers who try to learn too much about King Arthur. But there isn't just one gargoyle out there. One person in the States claimed to see one fly over their car. Their mom was driving and they thought they were the only one to see it, but their mom looked at them, pale as a sheet, and said, "Did you see that?" They described it as a thin, bony, lanky gray thing that was illuminated, coated in like a soft light. They said it kind of looked like a huge, starving, human-esque bat creature, and all in all, I'm just rethinking everything about the Hunchback of Notre Dame right now. Those gargoyles? What if it's based off something real? All I'm saying. All I'm saying. So some people said the possible gargoyle the last person described sounded a little bit like Mothman. So that brings us to number 6, Mothman. If you haven't heard, the Mothman is described as a 6 or 7 foot tall, dark humanoid figure with wings and bright red glowing eyes. This legend began November 1966 in Clendenin, West Virginia. The story goes that 5 men were at their local cemetery preparing a grave for burial. Then, all of a sudden, something that looked like a brown human being lifted off from some nearby trees and flew over their heads. The men were shocked. It didn't did not appear to be a bird but more like a man with wings. And then, a few days later, sightings kept taking place with stories spreading around the entire region. While it has been spotted all over West Virginia, its main habitat seems to be Point Pleasant, specifically in an area locals call the TNT area, where there have been hundreds of sightings. So now in Point Pleasant, there is a Mothman statue, Mothman Museum, and Mothman Festival. And honestly, that's just fun hype, and I want to go so bad. But here's another man creature cryptid at number 5, Dogman. So Dogman or Dogmen is an umbrella term for an upright canine cryptid. They are mainly found stalking North American woods, as you can see by this map of reported sightings. So some describe another version of a Dogman, sometimes called a Type 3, a Sasquatch-looking creature with the face of a dog. So here's one story that is similar to how many sightings of a Dogman or Dogmen go down. A man and his mom were sitting on their porch that faces an alley when it got eerily quiet. They turned their attention to where a trash can had fallen over. They thought they saw just a big dog, but it got up on its hind legs. Its height was taller than the security fence their neighbors put up. His mom went inside and he backed away slowly into his house. Now he says he won't walk anywhere at night alone. While there is a large sum of people who have reported sightings where they said they felt frightened, few sightings have resulted in actual attack or harm. And that being said, if you come across a Dogman and feel frightened, like you could be attacked, just walk away. You just don't want to risk it, honestly. No. And so yeah, we talked about Dogman, so we need to talk about number 4. Goatman. He is described as half goat and half human, as the name suggests. Goatman walks on 2 legs and is 7 feet tall. I feel like a lot of these are 7 feet tall or 7 feet long. Just saying. So the story goes that a scientist was experimenting on ghosts until one experiment backfired. Then he was mutated, becoming goat-like himself. He then began attacking cars with an axe, roaming the back roads of Beltsville, Maryland. He has been blamed for the deaths of countless hikers. In 1962, Goatman allegedly slaughtered 14 hikers after they went too close to his hideout. It was written, he chopped his victims to pieces while emitting screams that only the devil himself would make. Now people believe he hides out under an old bridge, waiting for his next victim. At number 3, Altamahaha. The Altamahaha is also called Alti. It is said that it was discovered by the Tama native tribe before the British English colonization. The existence of Alti has been recognized by Native Americans for centuries. It is described as 20 to 30 feet long, with a sturgeon-like body and a bony ridge on its top. Its color is gray with a whitish yellow underbelly, but it can be shown to be green. This may be for camouflaging reasons. It has front flippers but no back limbs, and it has large protruding eyes and large sharp teeth. Apparently it swims like a dolphin but has the snout of a crocodile and big bug eyes. Basically. It's located in small streams and abandoned rice fields near the Altamahaw River. So it has not been said to be explicitly dangerous, but don't go near it if you see one. If it has the face of a crocodile, you can bet it has the bite of one too. And with those, you just punch it in the nose. Or like plug its nose and it can't breathe and then you'll be let go. Just tips, pro tips. Crocodiles. On to number 2, the orang pendek. So the orang pendek is a mysterious ape of Sumatra, an island of western Indonesia. In the Indonesian language, orang pendek translates to short person. So it could possibly be a homogeneous, and it's believed to be an undiscovered kind of primate species, possibly. It is most commonly described by those who have seen it as a bipedal creature that stands from 2.5 to 5 feet tall. They are covered in golden brown or gray hair and have similar mannerisms to humans. Different than monkeys, they are also said to have human-like facial features. Witnesses have also claimed to see them ripping apart logs, akin to Captain America ripping one up. That's only what I think. It could just be ripping up that way. But let's go on. Last but not least, number 1, Slide Rock Bolter. So the Slide Rock Bolter is a huge cryptid that allegedly lives in the mountains of Colorado. It has a huge head, small eyes, and a gaping mouth. It is said to look similar to a whale with a flared tail that has enormous grabbing hooks at the end. So it was reportedly seen around the late 19th and into the 20th centuries as a popular tale among lumberjacks and miners. Also, it only lives where the slope is more than a 45-degree angle, where it hides and waits for its prey. I'm guessing it uses this angle to be able to slide towards them, as it will sit and wait until unsuspecting tourists walk by, and then it unlocks its claws and just slides towards them. Due to its size, it's said to be able to eat whole parties of tourists in just one fell swoop. Once it has caught its prey, it apparently uses its tail claws to climb back up the mountain and then rest again, waiting for the next victim. Now, skeptics say it may be a drunken lumberjack's explanation for a rock slide, but believers say it may have taken on more of a rocky look to camouflage itself nowadays, as big divots in Colorado mountains say, ooh, maybe it's there, and it was sliding, eating the prey.
Number 10, Hombre Caiman. Originating from Colombia, El Hombre Caiman's legend is one that's a little weird. See, Saul Montenegro was a bit of a peeping Tom, and his favorite spots to do so was the Magdalena River. Fearing being revealed, he visited a witch and bought a potion that would allow him to turn into an alligator. Given 2 potions, the first was to turn him into his newly bescaled form, while the second was to turn him back to his usual pervy self. His system continued to his pleasure for a while, with a friend carrying the second potion and distributing it at Montenegro's leisure. However, one day the friend made a mistake, frightened by the alligator form, and dropped the reversal potion into the water. Now, some of it did land on Montenegro, just enough to turn his torso back into the form of a man, but his legs remained those of the alligator. And so he remained, eternally hunted like the freak he was. Number 9. Encantado. A strange group of pink dolphins that is said to be located within the Amazon. These little weirdos are generally helpful to fishermen, with some claiming they even hold power over local weather. They're even professed to aid people that are drowning, but for all their good deeds, they do hold a pretty nasty little secret. See, the Encantado are professed to be capable of changing their form, turning into men once a year at Festa Junina. Wearing hats to conceal their blowholes, these handsome gentlemen join the festival where they seduce local women, and then proceed to leave them with a child that they won't be planning to raise. Ew. Number 8. El Cuero. A cousin of the similarly shaped Weke Weke, this horrible monstrosity is professed to hide in lakes, floating on the water's surface. With a spotted hide, it's generally easy to mistake this creature for a discarded cow's hide, but it's best not to be fooled. Concealed beneath the skin are a collection of teeth, stalked eyes, claws that line the edges of the hide, and a mouth that can extend to better consume its prey. There are even some reports that claim El Cuero can use weaponry, mostly knives and anything else its quarry might have been carrying. Supposedly, El Cuero is particularly fond of drinking blood, a number of its teeth being fangs. With all of that in mind, it's pretty safe to say that if you see a cowhide floating on a lake, you should just leave it alone. Even better, just leave. Number 7. Maricoxi. You know, with every culture in the world having some kind of variation on the Bigfoot legend, maybe it's time we started taking them a little bit seriously. However, the Maricoxi aren't just content to blurrily walk in front of cameras. Supposedly found by Percy Fawcett in an expedition to the Amazon in 1914, the Maricoxi were reported to live near the Muksubi tribe. Upon sighting Fawcett, they reportedly made overtures of diplomacy, but negotiations crumbled as Fawcett claimed to have been threatened with a bow. They opened fire on the Maricoxi, who responded in kind. Probably would have just been better to leave them alone, you feel? Number 6. Tapir Iwara. Occasionally referred to as water jaguars, these strange creatures appear to be hybrids between tapirs and jaguars. Roughly the size of a cow, they're estimated to be carnivores, though attacks on humans are rare. Social creatures, the Tapir Iwara defend each other when threatened. Sometimes they're hunted due to being viewed as pests, though this is dangerous as one of their strangest defensive abilities is their ability to steal the soul of any who approach them. Reportedly, victims have developed mental illness and symptoms of malaria after just simply seeing or smelling the Tapir Iwara. The soul can be returned so long as a professional shaman does it, but some claim that smelling salts can be enough to get the job done. Number 5. Sasi. Generally considered to be a bit of a pain in the neck, Sasi is a one-legged man wearing a red cap and smoking a pipe. Originally from the Tupi-Guarani mythology, Sasi is generally known to reside within dust devils and is commonly attributed with their creation. There are multiple versions of Sasi, and he's known to be able to even turn invisible or shapeshift into a large bird to escape capture. When given a chance, Sasi will cause mischief in just about any way he can, hiding toys, keeping popcorn from popping, dropping rakes where people will step on them. It's generally stated that if something goes wrong, 9 times out of 10, it's because Saucy thought it'd be funny. That being said, he can be captured whether with a rosary, a bottle, or even just by stealing his red cap. From there, he might become a friend. But if he's treated poorly, you better watch out. Number 4. Yakumama. With the name Mother of Water, this massive serpent supposedly resides within the Amazon rainforest. Attributed with the birthing of all creatures in the famed Amazon River, Yakumama.
If you want to eat healthy and feel your best, you gotta try.
bottle or even just by stealing his red cap. From there, he might become a friend. But if he's treated poorly, you better watch out. Number 4, Yakumama. With the name Mother of Water, this massive serpent supposedly resides within the Amazon rainforest. Attributed with the birthing of all creatures in the famed Amazon River, Yakumama is known to hunt by ingesting massive amounts of water, which it then spits at its prey. The sheer force enough to knock out the victim, who will then be ingested by the serpent's leisure. Supposedly, if one decides to fish in any river and they see an unbelievable bounty of fish within its waters, they must blow a conch horn before engaging in their hunt. The Yakumama will then reveal
Yes, boss man,
itself
so
if
this
it's
is here, the
nearby,
boss is so
its
cute.
plot foiled and the fisherman given a chance to escape. The whims of Yakumama are strange indeed, as unlike most reptiles, it doesn't always consume its prey, sometimes simply frightening them to the point where they run away, though why it does this remains to be seen. Number 3, Wallapen. A Chilean creature, the wallapen resides mostly within lakes and rivers. With the body of a sheep, the head of a cow, and flipper-like feet, this creature is supposedly capable of inducing miscarriages upon sight alone. While harmless on land, wallapen are famously violent when encountered in their natural habitat. Even stranger still, they appear to be capable of mating with both cows and sheep, which does at least explain their bizarre appearance. Some believe that they might be the source of, or a possibly younger version of El Cuero, the wallapen potentially shedding its skin, which might then be taken on by or transform into El Cuero. Regardless, these creatures are just another reason why I won't be taking a dip in any rivers anytime soon. Number 2, the headless mule. We don't need a headless horseman, we've got a headless horse, man. Supposedly a curse inflicted upon a sinning woman, this creature only appears between the evenings of Thursday and the mornings of Friday. It sprints between parishes, spewing flames from its neck and stopping for almost nothing, as its path eventually leads to the location where its sin was committed. Supposedly, pricking the mules with a needle can temporarily stop the curse, as can tying her to a cross, but the only way to remove the curse for good is for someone to marry her. All one needs to do to avoid being trampled is to lie down and cover oneself with nails, teeth, or anything else that might shine. This will render the victim mostly invisible to the mule, who may then leave peacefully. Number 1, Patasola. Appearing as a one-legged woman, the similarities with Saucy end just about there. Her origins can vary, but usually relate to some infidelity or act of cruelty committed before her death. When resurrected, a Patasola will begin her hunt, and is deeply protective of nature and those within. While she is known for generally just causing mischief, her grievances are more squarely aimed at hunters and loggers, interfering with their work the most. Luring her prey into the forest, Patasola then drains them of their blood, and is known to be able to shapeshift into a dog or a cow. She's also famed for singing from the treetops when she's completed a hunt.
And we're starting it off today with Pukwudgies. The Pukwudgie is a creature from Native American folklore that is said to inhabit the forests of the northeastern United States. According to legend, Pukwudgies are mischievous tricksters who can cause harm to humans if they are angered or offended. There have been a number of reported sightings of the creatures throughout Ohio. According to folklore, Pukwudgies are small, humanoid creatures that stand about 2 to 3 feet tall. They are said to have gray skin, large ears, and a large nose. Some legends also describe them as having quills or spines on their backs. They're believed to be skilled hunters and are said to use their magical powers to disappear and reappear at will. They're also said to have the ability to shapeshift into animals or objects. In some Native American traditions, Pukwudgies are viewed as protectors of the forest and are said to have the power to ward off evil spirits. However, in other legends, Pukwudgies are seen as mischievous troublemakers who enjoy playing pranks on humans. So if you do happen to see one, prepare to be clowned. Next on the list, we have the Cedar Bog monster. Now, this is one of those cryptids that could very well be a Sasquatch, or of course, a grassman as it's known locally in Ohio. It's more of a name given to the specific place this creature was seen though. When Cedar Bog opened as a nature preserve in 1942, people immediately began flocking to the area to witness the various species of birds, the fish and plants, and just soak in the nature. But what they didn't expect or want to see was a large, hairy humanoid creature, but many did report seeing the big ape-like creature strolling along Woodburn Road, which runs right beside the bog. They reported that whatever the thing was too large to be a man. I'm also sure the fur and gorilla-like face kinda gave that away too, possibly. There was also an incident where 3 teenagers went missing in the park while on a camping trip. Apparently, there were reports of loud screams coming from Cedar Bog.
Our tip Vienna trip. Every flight pure delight. Austrian flair in the air. Austrian food tastes so good. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
At number 8, we have the Charles Mills Lake Monster. Now, there's only one reported encounter with this creature, but it's a pretty eerie story. On the night of March 28th, 1959. 1959 is going to come up a lot on this list, by the way. I don't know what it was about that year, but there was some stuff going on in Ohio. Anyway, 3 teenage boys had been hanging out around the Charles Mill Reservoir when they suddenly saw something forming out of the dark water before them. It was a 7-foot-tall humanoid that began moving towards them. It was described as having no arms, bright glowing green eyes, and webbed feet. The teens obviously booked it out of there and reported what they saw to authorities, who made their way to the area, where they came across footprints, if you could even describe whatever made the tracks as feet. They were large indents that appeared as if they were made by webbed feet. Who knows what this thing was? Even if it was real or just a hoax, there was indeed a large fishy monster skulking around the lake. I'm guessing it must have smelt like a sewer. Number 7, alien big cats. Alien big cats are a very real thing. These are big cats like panthers or leopards found outside of their natural environments. The alien part doesn't mean that these cats are from outer space, but then again, who knows how they got there, right? In 2011, there were several sightings of supposed alien big cats in and around Dayton, Ohio. A private zoo owner by the name of Terry Thompson had released upwards of 50 animals into the wild before unfortunately taking his own life in October of 2011, which resulted in, of course, several reports of large cats spotted throughout the area. 48 of them were either put under by police or sent off to Columbus Zoo. There had been reports of alien big cat sightings before these animals were known to be released, though, which is strange. Multiple sightings of black panthers dating back to April of 2011, and police would continue investigating sightings until around April of 2012. Phantom kangaroos. All right, so we have big cats being reported in Ohio, so now we're moving on to kangaroos. Ohio's just full of dangerous wildlife, apparently. The phantom kangaroo is a cryptid that is said to resemble a kangaroo or wallaby and is believed to inhabit various parts of the world, including the United States. Basically, again, these are kangaroos showing up in places they shouldn't be, like Ohio. Except the stranger part is that these phantom kangaroos have been spotted where no escaped kangaroos have been reported. The creature is known for its elusive nature, as well as its ability to seemingly disappear without a trace and leave no evidence behind, almost like a ghost. A phantom kangaroo, if you will. Some experts believe that these sightings may be the result of misidentifications, of course, of other animals like large domestic dogs or coyotes, but I don't know, maybe there's some kangies running around Ohio.
Hey yo, bro, can you hear me?
5, devil monkeys. So yeah, it seems like there are all kinds of
You
hairy
still
apes
didn't
and
tell me if
monkeys
you can
in
hear me or
Ohio
not.
as well. Who would have guessed? You got Grassman, who may or may not be Bigfoot, the hairy orange-eyed creature we talked about in part 1, and now this baboon-looking beast. The devil
that like
monkey
the
is a
My Hero
cryptid that is
Academia?
believed
Like
to
the-
inhabit
like the
the
anime?
forests and rural areas of North
Or
America,
like
described
not?
as a large large, aggressive primate-like creature with gray or black fur and red eyes. The devil monkey is known for its terrifying appearance and alleged attacks on humans and domestic animals. There have been numerous reports of sightings of the creature in Ohio and other parts of the U.S. Witnesses have described encountering a large bipedal creature.
No, I was just
stands
asking
on
you,
two
like,
legs
can you
and
hear me
resembles a
properly?
monkey or baboon with a fierce expression and a tendency to attack without provocation. There are many folks that are convinced that the devil monkey is a real creature, and sightings continue to be reported until this day. Some cryptozoologists speculate that the devil monkey may be a new species of primate that is yet to be officially recognized, while others believe it could be a surviving member of a prehistoric primate species that was previously thought to be extinct. The Trumbull County UFO incident. Next up, we have a well-documented UFO sighting. There have been multiple UFO sightings in the state of Ohio, dating back a long ways, but this one is from 1994. I don't see why aliens wouldn't want to observe Ohio. Seems like there's a lot going on, as you could probably tell from these lists. Maybe they were hovering around, placing bets on what creature they'd spot first. Lots to choose from. There were tons of witnesses to this odd event on December 14th, 1994. Citizens, multiple police officers, dispatchers. It was pretty significant. Multiple residents had reported seeing low flying lights in the sky. The first police officer on the scene, Sergeant Toby Malero, had a pretty odd incident. As he was moving closer to the odd lights in the sky, talking with the dispatcher the entire time, his radio suddenly stopped working and his vehicle just shut off before he was engulfed in a bright light from above. He exited his vehicle, not quite knowing how to go about this odd occurrence, and reported seeing a giant circular shaped object hovering in the sky, which apparently made no sound. Once the object flew away, his car and radio, bam, started working again. 14 other law enforcement officers also saw these mysterious UFOs that night, with one even climbing up on a radar tower for a better view, and then claimed to have seen 3 circular flying objects that changed color in unison.
I'm about to blow your mind. This is going to be a bit controversial, but it has some really important lessons. You might have heard the fact that bacteria and probiotics
Number 3, Helltown. So while this one is a place and not actually a cryptid per se, it is reported to be an incredibly strange and dangerous place where all sorts of spooky happenings occur. Helltown has been left behind, now an abandoned town where nothing but empty homes, cathedrals, and unused bridges still stand, though there are some who are said to still reside there, such as ghosts, mutant animals, and cultists. The residents of the town formerly known as Boston, Ohio, had been forced to leave their homes in 1974 when President Gerald Ford signed a bill that gave the federal government's National Park Service jurisdiction to expropriate land for establishment of natural parks. The NPS began buying up properties, and eventually it was a ghost town. In the mid-80s, there were several chemical spills in Helltown that some believed resulted in the mutated animals spotted in the area. And apparently there's also a haunted school bus and stuff like that. Interesting place to go, I'd imagine. And at number 2, we have Octoman. On a cold Cincinnati night in January of 1959, police began receiving several reports of a strange octopus-like creature. It started with a man who called police in a panic, saying that he saw something come out of the river, calling it completely indescribable. This report was followed by one from a truck driver just soon after, claiming to have seen a strange creature while driving into Cincinnati. More and more reports began coming in, but it was hard for anyone to describe exactly what they were seeing. What police did note, however, was that the people calling about these encounters sounded pretty shaken up, even though know, the police kind of didn't believe it. They were joking a little bit. That was one thing they did know. These people sounded like they did see something. The more reports that came in as well, the closer they would get to form a description of the creature. A very large creature with grayish skin, tentacles, and a lopsided chest. Sounds like a pretty attractive creature there. One person was stated as saying, "It was large, not a dog or a cat. It leaped in front of my car and on two legs and it was taller than the auto. When I looked back in my mirror, it was moving along the bridge rail. It was 3 or 4 times the size of a man and much bulkier. I have an eye in mind for dimensions, and I know it was huge." And coming in at number 1 is the Peninsula Python. Now, this is a really interesting one because it really did exist. Sure, it's not really a cryptid per se, but this was an incident that actually took place, and it's pretty wild stuff. The summer of 1944, people in Summit County, Ohio began spotting a massive-sized python in Cuyahoga Valley National Park. It was reported being around 15 feet in length and incredibly thick. It was a python, definitely a real animal. It was just in the wrong part of the world, that's all. It's still kind of a mystery as to how it got there, but it's rumored that it was being transported through the area, possibly for a circus or something, but managed to escape. Residents were understandably pretty scared that summer as the giant snake roamed through farms, leaving giant tire-sized indents in its wake. It even attacked livestock. The python was also never found, just disappeared eventually. Most likely died curled up somewhere after succumbing to the Ohio winter, though.
Starting off this countdown, we have the Alaska Triangle. Turns out that Alaska has its very own Bermuda Triangle. This is referred to as the area in the southeast to the northern Borough region to the western metropolis of Anchorage. Apparently, more than 20,000 people have gone missing in this area. That's just in the past half century alone. And these people go missing without a trace. No one knows what happens to them or where they went. So some believe that this area is home to mythological type beasts that kidnap and then eat these people. Whereas others believe that this area is home to some dark vortex that sucks these poor souls in. Regardless of what you believe in, one thing is for sure. This triangle has and continues to take the lives of many. In our 9th spot, we have the UFO base. And if you guys are still watching, hopefully smash that like button. Let me know in the comments below that you're still here. Hi. It is believed that Alaska is home to a top secret UFO base. Even though it's not that top secret if people claim that there is one. Anyways, Mount Hayes is the highest mountain in the eastern Alaskan range. That's the place where people believe extraterrestrials and UFOs are located. It all started in the 1940s when a number of UFOs were spotted in that area. Eventually, the sightings got more and more frequent that the FBI was called in to investigate the area. And the sightings haven't stopped. There have been hundreds of sightings throughout the years. In fact, Pat Price, a former CIA remote viewer, even said that the mountain, and I quote, housed one of the aliens' largest bases. So this urban legend might not be so much of a legend. In our 8th spot, we have the Captain Cook. This is a cute little hotel located in downtown Anchorage. According to legends, though, this hotel is extremely haunted. Apparently, a woman took her life in the hotel in the 70s, and her ghost can be seen wandering the halls. In particular, she is said to haunt the woman's restroom there. Visitors also claim that doors will open and close on their own, and the lights will flicker on and off by themselves. According to locals, this woman is bound to the hotel and doesn't know how to escape it. So she's just stuck there, aimlessly wandering the halls for eternity. I don't know why she would haunt the bathroom though. Like, that's not a place I would hang around in if I was a ghost. Moving on at number 7, we have Keelut. A Keelut is said to be an evil earth spirit that appears in the form of a black dog that's completely hairless, but it does have hair on its little feet. But only its feet. Apparently, this dog then stalks travelers at night and has been known to attack and kill them. Those that have apparently seen this spirit say they saw dog tracks in the snow that then disappeared right in front of their own eye. That's apparently a sign that the Keelut is nearby. In Inuit legend, the Keelut is said to be a spirit of death. Others believe that it's a real-life cryptid. Scariest part? Apparently, just by looking at this creature, they can cause victims to become disoriented disoriented and spiral into madness. They then will become lost and perish from hypothermia. The Kilu waits until this moment and then attacks and eats its victim. In our 6th spot, we have Mother Lode Lodge. Located in Palmer, this lodge is said to be very haunted. In fact, it literally has been known to spook even the hardest of souls. According to local legend, this hotel is haunted by a number of different spirits. Most famously, there's this black apparition ghost, given that name because it always appears as a black, cloudy apparition. People have seen this spirit wandering the grounds.
Talk about young Sephiroth.
Another ghost
We're
is
gonna
a
see what's
figure that's
going on
dressed
with
in
that.
black. This figure likes to show itself in mirror reflections. Just sounds like Bloody Mary to me. No, thank you. On top of that, people have reported hearing strange noises in the middle. Of the night and have seen curtains open and close by itself. It's a good place to go ghost hunting, but a bad place to spend the night. We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with the aliens. In late fall through winter to early spring, the northern lights can be seen on nights with clear skies. I've always wanted to see the northern lights, they're quite beautiful. But according to a weird urban legend, it states that the northern lights are produced by aliens. Yeah, you heard me. Legend goes that aliens create these beautiful lights so that they can then fly through the air undetected. In fact, cosmonaut Ivan Wagner was filming the northern lights when he captured a UFO flying by. Plus, there's already a ton of UFO and alien sightings in Alaska. So, could it be that this legend is true? That the aliens are behind this colorful display of lights? Moving on to number 4, we have the sea monster. Located in the waters near Kodiak Island lurks a close relative to the Loch Ness Monster. It has since been given the name the Kodiak Sea Monster. It all started in 1971 when a group of fishermen set sail. That's when they encountered this massive sea beast. One of the fishermen said, and I quote, "We don't know what it was, but it had a grayish color and we couldn't see any fins or any tail, and it never made any noise. It would just come up and you could see the head and part of the body." Another man described it as being 30 feet long and had a head on it that looked kind of like a horse. Then in 2002, it was seen again, this time by a different group of fishermen. They described it as having a massive head and neck. They couldn't tell if the head was a foot in diameter or 3 feet in diameter. To this day, the beast has never been caught, so maybe it's still out there, continuing to scare local fishermen. In our 3rd spot, we have the Alaskan Vortex. So let's talk more about this Alaskan triangle. The missing persons rate in that area is more than twice the national average. It's insane. As I mentioned briefly, some people believe that a vortex is to blame for all the disappearances. Legend goes that the vortex basically sucks people in and then transports them to different dimensions. Let's look at some of the facts used to support this theory. For starters, apparently the area has a huge number of magnetic anomalies. It throws off compasses and has even made people feel sick. A number of rescue workers that have gone into the area have claimed to feel
Did you start playing it at all yet? Like how far did you
and
get?
have experienced auditory hallucinations. This could be evidence that a vortex is present. Moving on to number 2, we have the Bigfoot. Alaska apparently has its own Bigfoot. They call it the Hairy Beast, and apparently it lives in Port Chatham. It all started back in the 1930s when a number of people went missing in this area. In 1931, a man named Andrew Kamluck went out logging. He was later found dead in the forest with a bad blow to his head. Around the same time, another man was out in the area and randomly disappeared without a trace. Then another man named Tom Larson was out chopping wood when he saw this hairy beast on the beach. The creature was just standing there staring at him. It didn't attack him though. There are more stories that involve people mysteriously disappearing or dying in the area, and they blame it on this mysterious hairy beast. In fact, on a number of other occasions, people have seen like weird man-like beast footprints in the mud, which they believe is from this terrifying creature. And in our number 1 spot, we have the Kushtaka. Otters are cute little cuddly animals that are pretty innocent, right? Well, not in Alaska. You you gotta be careful with the otters out there, because they might actually be shape-shifting creatures known as Kushtaka. The Kushtaka is said to be a cross between an otter and a man. In some stories, these creatures are said to be helpful, but in most stories, they are deceptive and evil creatures. They tend to mimic the screams of women and children, so that fishermen will be like, oh my god, someone's out there, I need to help them, I'll save them, and then they go to help and they just get killed. They are also said to appear when people are vulnerable. Maybe there's a lost fisherman or hiker or someone that's injured. They'll come and be like, we're here to help you, to rescue you. Instead, they'll lead you deeper into the wilderness and either tear you to pieces or turn you into a Kushtaka to prevent your soul from ever being able to reincarnate. Wow, that's terrifying. Plus, the fact that they can also shapeshift into an otter is really weird. Like, so maybe you're out on the water and you're like, oh, cute, look at that little otter. And then all of a sudden, it's like, psych, and then grabs you and pulls you into the water. Watch out.
In the vast, untamed wilderness of Texas, whispers of a fearsome creature known as the Wampus Cat have echoed through the ages. Countless locals hailing from remote towns and ranches claim to have encountered this enigmatic cryptid, leaving an indelible mark on the region's folklore. Descriptions of the Wampus Cat vary, but a common thread weaves throughout. It's a creature with the body of a monstrous feline, possessing sleek black fur that glistens under the moonlight. Its piercing, glowing eyes pierce through the darkness, striking fear into the hearts of those who dare to gaze upon it. As diverse as the Lone Star State itself, some say the Wampus Cat prowls silently in the dense pine forests of East Texas, emitting blood-curdling cries that reverberate through the night. Others claim to have witnessed the creature sprinting across open plains, leaving behind a trail of shattered trees and trampled earth. The bravest souls speak of unsettling encounters near secluded water sources where the Wampus Cat is said to drink, its presence sending wildlife scattering in terror. Those who have encountered the Wampus Cat speak of an uncanny primal energy emanating from the creature. Its presence is said to invoke an inexplicable sense of dread, as if crossing paths with an otherworldly force deeply rooted in the untamed heart of Texas. Whether the Wampus Cat is an embodiment of ancient Native American legends or a creature yet to be fully understood, we still don't know. Number 9, the Chupacabra. The Chupacabra is a legendary creature that has gained notoriety throughout the world. Sightings reported across
Said, I do the side missions first too.
The creature is
you get better items that way.
As having a reptilian or canine-like appearance with large fangs and a pronounced spine along its back. It's said to prey on livestock, draining their blood and leaving behind a trail of carnage. One of the most famous encounters occurred in Texas, however, when a woman named Phyllis Canyon discovered what she believed to be the remains of the creature on the side of a road. Canyon was initially skeptical of reports of the Chupacabra, but was pretty convinced of its existence after discovering this bizarre carcass. She had also found several of her chickens dead on her property around the time she found this strange animal. Canyon's discovery sparked quite a media frenzy, with reports and cryptid enthusiasts from around the world jumping in excitement. While some skeptics dismissed the creature as a coyote or other known animal, Canyon maintained that its appearance was unlike anything she had ever seen before, and it definitely could be some sort of wild dog with mange or something, but either way, pretty gnarly looking animal. In 2001, a 19-year-old driving in Pennsylvania reported seeing a bird-like creature with a wingspan of 10 to 15 feet, and it had an elongated head. 2 other witnesses later reported seeing similar creatures in the same area, and all of this was very reminiscent of sightings in Texas in 1976 and 82 that were also described as looking sort of like an ancient pterosaur. These sightings in Texas occurred near the location where the fossil of a large pterosaur was first discovered. And what was most fascinating about these sightings, right, they seemed to have occurred close together in waves, so it seems like people were really seeing.
I saw war, I saw bombing, I saw shooting.
وجينا روحنا وهي كريهة نبصركوا خير ونبصركوا الشباب اختلاف.
For millions of children, war means displacement, danger, hunger, and fear. Your donation can help families affected by war with food, essentials, and medical care. In war, it's children who suffer the most. Help them today.
Something. One possible explanation could be the frigate bird, which can have a wingspan of up to 8 feet. Frigate birds tend to soar for long periods and only land to tend to their young. At number 7, we have Sasquatch, because these things are everywhere, apparently. Everyone has their own version of this big hairy beast. So look, Sasquatch needs no introduction, but I'm gonna give the big hairy lug one anyway. The Sasquatch, or Bigfoot, as he's commonly known, is basically the ultimate celebrity cryptid. Everyone knows who he is, but nobody has actually seen him in person, or have they? Apparently, Texas is home to many Bigfoot sightings. It seems that he's been spotted more than a few times wandering around in the woods. Some people claim that he's up to 10 feet tall, because everything is bigger in Texas, covered in hair, and smells like a wet dog. Others say that he's more of a gentle giant who just wants to be left alone. All I know is there really are Bigfoot roaming around in the wilderness of Texas. They gotta be just sweltering hot with all that fur. The legend of the Donkey Lady of San Antonio is a famous Texas urban legend. According to the legend, the Donkey Lady is a half-human, half-donkey creature that roams the area. Some say she was once a beautiful woman who was tragically burned and disfigured in a fire. Some say she was thrown in a river with her pet donkey and now haunts the Elm Creek Bridge. Some claim to have actually seen her, and it's a tale that's been passed down from generation to generation, and who knows, maybe there's some truth to it. I mean, if you squint your eyes while looking at a donkey long enough, it sort of looks like a person, right? And if you've ever heard a donkey braying in the middle of the night, not hard to imagine it could be some sort of supernatural creature. Then again, maybe the Donkey Lady is just a misunderstood animal, human hybrid who's just trying to find her place in the world. Up next, we have the skunk ape. Oh boy, do I love the skunk ape. The skunk ape is a legendary cryptid that is mostly seen in Florida, but there have also been numerous sightings in Texas and a couple other states. This creature is similar to Bigfoot, but it is said to have a distinct odor, hence the name, and it also likes hanging around swamps. That's where most apes tend to hang out in nature. Many people have claimed to have seen this elusive creature, and some even have photographic evidence to support their claims. In 2000, a series of photos surfaced taken by a woman on her back porch that showed what appeared to be a skunk ape walking through a swampy area, and I have always loved these photos. Yes, it could definitely be an escaped orangutan or something, but it's pretty freaky nonetheless, and if it is a costume, which I really don't think it is, it's got to be a pretty damn good one. The photos were taken in Florida, but it's not surprising that there have been sightings in Texas as well. After all, Texas is a vast state with plenty of forests and wilderness areas where a creature like the skunk ape could hide. Despite the many sightings and alleged evidence, there are still skeptics who don't believe in the existence of skunk ape, but for those who have seen it or have smelt its distinctive odor, there's no denying there's something strange and mysterious lurking in the swamps and woods, Florida and Texas. The black-eyed children. Black-eyed children are a mysterious and creepy phenomenon that have captivated the attention of paranormal enthusiasts for years. The supposed sightings involve encountering children with completely black eyes, just no sclera in there, and they seem to appear out of nowhere and ask to be let into people's homes or vehicles. Sometimes they ask you to help them with a small favor, but their true intentions are sinister because they have pure black eyes. Some people believe these children are demonic or extraterrestrial in origin, while others believe they are simply a creepy urban legend. The first written account of the black-eyed children, or at least the most famous, came from Texas reporter Brian Bethel in 1996. Bethel shared his experience of encountering 2 children with completely black eyes while sitting in his car. Since Bethel's account, numerous reports of black-eyed children have emerged, with many claiming to have reported feeling a sense of dread and unease when encountering these mysterious rascals. And I think I know why. people feel a little off seeing these kids, their eyes are pure black. That would do it for me. The Beast of Bears. The Beast of Bears is a cryptid that is said to roam the wilds of Texas, resembling a large, scarred-up bear with missing patches of fur. It's rumored to live near swamps, adding to the creature's mysterious allure. Some even say that it has gills, making it a truly unique and peculiar creature. What kind of bizarre mashup of things is this? Goatman apparently has gills too, so why are all these big hairy Texas monsters also aquatic? Anyway, the Beast of Bears also boasts large red eyes like those of the Mothman, which only adds to the intrigue surrounding this cryptid. The first sighting of the Beast of Bears was in 1973 at a camping spot near the town of Alice, Texas. Since then, over 31 sightings have been reported, with the most recent being in a backyard outside Crestview, Florida. However, the Beast of Bears is most closely associated with Texas. Many reports of sightings coming from various parts of the state. Despite skeptics dismissing the Beast of Bears as a hoax, there is evidence to suggest that the creature may be real. Even a drawing of the creature suggests that it may be found not only in Texas, but also up in Canada. Some have even linked the Beast of Bears to Inuit stories about giant bears that drag people underwater and eat them. And coming in at number 2, the Lake Worth Monster. The Lake Worth Monster, also known as the famous Goatman, is a cryptid that has long captivated the attention of Texans. Sightings of the creature began in the summer of 1969, when a group of people reported encountering a strange half-man, half-goat-like creature near Lake Worth, just outside of Fort Worth. Descriptions of the creature vary, but most witnesses report seeing a towering, hairy beast with a goat's head, cloven hooves, and the ability to leap great distances. Some descriptions of the strange beast, and some even describe it as having fishy scales all over its body, which don't seem to fit. But anyway, over the course of several weeks, the creature was allegedly sighted by numerous individuals, leading to a media frenzy and an increased public interest in the elusive creature. One article written by reporter Jim Mars was written with the, I gotta say, hilarious headline, "Fishy man-goat terrifies couple parked at Lake Worth." Love that. Some locals claimed the creature was aggressive, throwing car tires and rocks at those who stumbled upon it, while others reported it simply observing them from a distance. And finally, we have the NASA gargoyle. There have been multiple sightings of this mysterious creature, but the first reported sighting, and definitely the most famous, was from NASA employee Frank Shaw, who worked in Houston's Johnson Space Center. Shaw had reported walking back to his car after his shift and spotted what looked to be a large, winged, jet-black humanoid creature perched on one of the Space Center's buildings. Suddenly, it started unfurling its wings, which apparently made this awful crackling sound, and then it just swooped into the air. I'm picturing the creature from Jeepers Creepers here, so not pleasant. Shaw had been completely stunned, frozen in fear at the sight of whatever this beast was, but suddenly kind of snapped out of it as soon as the thing flew into the air and started making his way back to his car, where in classic horror movie fashion, he struggled to get his keys into the door. I'm picturing him just kind of like dropping them a couple times. But he finally got into his car and just flew out of there. Here's what's really interesting about this incident, though. Apparently, there were other employees at the station who had also had encounters with the winged monstrosity. Apparently, there had been a file opened on the creature just a few months before Shaw saw it, after 2 German shepherds at the station had been found completely mutilated in the same area as Shaw's sighting. So that's pretty interesting.
At number 10, we have Kasagatha, a giant ball of tentacles from a cosmic world too insane for our minds to understand. She is one of the oldest beings in the universe and is known for having a fierce temper. It's said that she can use her tentacles to reach out and pluck any living thing from its home and devour it in one bite. And if that wasn't enough to freak you out, I have a video that might be this queen of terror flying through Earth.
These are those rhombohedron crystals in your pineal gland. When those crystals become electrically activated, all of a sudden they start calling energy back to them, and they begin to build their own electromagnetic field. We're seeing common people around the world becoming supernatural when they follow this formula. They're healing themselves, they're creating new jobs, new opportunities, and they're having mystical experiences, and they look just like you.
I chose St. George's University School of Medicine because at the time that I wanted to go into medicine, they were the only university that was willing to give me that chance. And I wanted somewhere that I felt believed.
Wow, that looked terrifying. If I ever saw something like that coming in a fog, I think I would just go back inside and watch Infinity War again. I'd be like, yeah, that's how I want to go up. I don't have any choice right now. I'm gonna die doing this. And of course, there's a good chance that this video is edited, but what's the fun in that? Let's believe together that there's a giant squid monster out there that would kill any of us in a moment and can make you drift into madness just from looking at it. That's cool. At number 9, we have Gnast. The Gnast are some of the smaller creations from the Lovecraftian universe. They have long, slim arms and legs, kind of like a Slender Man crossed between some sort of feral dude. They also have humanoid faces but lacking noses and ears. They have sharpened teeth and kangaroo-like legs with hooves for feet. Their bodies are hairless and their skin is pale white. They are about the same size as a man, and all these characteristics sound very similar to the extremely popular creepypasta, The Rake. There are so many similarities between these two monstrosities, and there is a ton of online reports of people seeing the Rake in real life or being attacked by this creature. So most of you are like, well, those are fake. But if even one of them is true, we might have a Gnast running around trying to kill people, and it just has been named something else for a new generation. At number 8, we have the Deep Ones. Fish-like humanoids that look a lot like the King Zora from Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. They will sometimes mate with humans who they find wandering by large bodies of water. But I can't imagine these creatures would be that sexy. In other words, you wouldn't want them to swim up to you and give you a nice fishy cold kiss unless you want to know what the ocean tastes like. Ugh. They live deep underwater and worship the fish god Dagon. With their fishy features and interest in mating with people, it sounds a lot like mermaids. Basically, they all do the same things, and mermaids have been sighted and reported throughout history. In the 17th century, Captain Richard Whitbourne reported seeing mermaids off the coast of Newfoundland. He said that they were beautiful and they would try to seduce him. Sounds a lot like the Deep Ones. All these underwater creatures are a horny bunch, that's for sure. At number 7, we have Dagon. Dagon? 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 Correct me in the comments. This massive immortal fish who the Deep Ones pray to. He is their god, and due to his massive size and power, he has earned the right to be worshipped. He is an old great one. He belongs to the same family as the Lovecraft superstar Cthulhu. It is his destiny to mate with Mother Hydra. I assume to make a lot more crazy fish monsters that would take over the world. And we might have some footage of him for you. That footage was from a hurricane moving through Miami, and if I was a giant cosmic fish monster, I would say that a massive storm would be my main form of transportation. Also, that noise it makes is terrifying. Like most mythical creatures, there isn't a clear shot of it. Maybe they all have a hidden power to blur themselves out of any sort of footage. The good news is that if Dagon is real, he likes to be worshipped. So we can make some sort of deal with him. We pray to you, you don't kill humanity, everybody wins. At number 6, we have Mygos. These guys are trippy and have a lot going on. They look like some sort of crustacean that has reproduced with a fungus and then sprouted wasp wings. They are extremely intelligent and able to travel through the solar system and beyond with ease. They take humans from Earth and transport them to Pluto and remove their brains. They worship the old gods and once waged war on the elder things prior to humans walking the Earth. Their appearance being crossed between an insect and a fungus reminds me of something that still exists here on Earth. Let's have a look at this.
From this bulbous container, spores will be cast into the air currents, where they will claim more ant victims. But it's not just ants. Many others are infected by the cordyceps fungus.
That was the cordyceps fungus. It infects insects, driving their minds crazy until they die. Then the fungus will grow out of their dead bodies, spreading to other insects. These deformed corpses of insects look very close to the description of the Mygos. The Mygos existed on Earth long before people ever walked the Earth, and there are some biologists who think that fungus are even older than the Earth and that they could have come from space. Could this fungus be a descendant of the Lovecraftian monster, slowly getting stronger, taking over minds one by one until it's able to reclaim the Earth and return to its final form? At number 5, we have the Night Gaunts. These are demonic looking creatures that have featureless faces, dark thick skin, large bat-like wings, and clawed hands. Nightmares of these creatures would torment H.P. Lovecraft when he was a child. I would assume that Lovecraft had a mind for the dark and twisted from an early age, and that's how he was able to come up with so many terrifying beasties. The description of these creatures seems to be very similar to many beings that have been mentioned throughout history, like gargoyles, demonic winged creatures that would come alive only at night, sometimes to snatch away children, or or even demons from the Bible, flying out of fiery hell to consume the people of Earth and spread darkness. Maybe all the nightmarish night gaunts that Lovecraft saw when he was a child weren't just in his head, but they were really tormenting him, trying to take him away and corrupt his soul. He had to tell himself that they were just part of his imagination so he could stay sane. Now, a few viewers are going to grow up with a fear of gargoyles and then remember this video 15 years from now when they're in therapy. At number 4, we have the Gloon. A trickster and a horror. Gloon originally presented itself to man in the form of the Greek god of wine, Dionysus. But it didn't take long for his true form to come out and terrify his victims. Its real form is that of a giant slug with thick skin and a body that is long and grotesque. It is able to manipulate the minds of the people around him, either for consumption, worship, or to do its bidding. It's said that Gloon has been locked away in the sunken city of Atlantis, but is still able to use its powers to manipulate people. It will force them to walk into the ocean and drown themselves. This is the beast's helpless attempt at trying to get some poor soul to free it from its prison. There have been tales of demons that walk around in the forests of Peru. They will find people who are sleeping, whisper to them in their sleep, and then lead them to water. It's said that the demon will then drown them and then take them to their underwater world. This could be Gloon using its powers to try and free itself. Let's hope it stays locked up. At number 3, we have Nyarlathotep. He is also one of the great cosmic gods of the Lovecraftian universe, but what makes him so much more dangerous than the rest of the ones we've gone over so far is that he is not asleep. The other gods stay in a constant hibernation, but not Nyarlathotep. He has been banished from Earth, but that doesn't mean he won't use his great power to visit the Earth in various ways. It's said that he has 1,000 other forms. He usually comes to Earth in the form of a pharaoh or leader of a cult, someone to gain praise from followers and try to increase his power. So perhaps we have seen him, we just never knew it. Some cults that have popped up throughout history could have been the great god in disguise. The infamous cult leader Jim Jones talked of alien beings and how his followers' souls would be transported into space. Could this have been the work of the Lovecraftian monster all along? At number 2 on our list is Azeroth. This is probably the Lovecraftian monster that I am most afraid of. Azeroth is a cosmic being that sits at the center of the universe and is constantly lulled to sleep by the song of a powerful god. It's Azeroth who created the universe, and if he ever wakes up, it will be he who ends it. His consciousness is life and death. Now, how could anyone ever see something that sits at the center of the universe? Well, if this creature exists, then proof of it would be the Big Bang. The cosmic microwave signals that are picked up throughout the universe could be the murmurs of its sleep. Let's just hope that the being singing to it never loses its tune. And for our number 1 spot, we have Cthulhu. So I had 2 options here. I could have left Cthulhu off the list because everyone knows Cthulhu, or I could have just slapped him at number 1. And I was like, dude, this guy's the poster boy for the whole brand of this genre of horror, and we might have a clip of him caught on camera.
The fastest way to increase the length of your manhood. If you want to increase the size of your tool and make it stronger and harder, go to your kitchen and follow this 8-second method discovered by Michigan University that has helped 100,000 men increase their length in a matter of days. If you're worried your tiny buddy down below isn't long or thick enough for your lady, then you need to see this. An 8-second growth hack that can help you increase your size almost overnight, while also making you rock solid anytime you want to. Not only does it improve your performance in bed, it also helps you restore your prostate and regrow your hair, plus it increases your stamina at night. Click the link below to skip straight to the details, and watch how this 8-second method can make you boost your size and performance within days. According to scientists from Michigan University, it works so well because it targets the actual root cause of your performance issues. It has nothing to do with stretching exercises or dangerous surgery, and it's so simple you can literally use it while sitting on the couch or in the car. Trust me, size matters to all women, and your wife or girlfriend will thank you for taking good care of this part of your body. Watch the video below and you will see what I mean. Men in their 50s and 60s have used this method to spice things up in their bedroom and are even going out on dates again. No matter how old you are, I urge you, seize this chance to join all those men who have changed their lives by solving their performance issues once and for all. The greedy corporates in the male enhancement industry don't want you to see this method because it's shattering their exorbitant profits. So while it's still online, watch the video below, and see how you can use it to increase your length at home, right now.
I love the fact that HelloFresh always send me something different that I never would have made.
The most amazing recipes delivered right to your door.
Wide variety, pre-portioned ingredients that help make sure you don't waste money on excess food.
HelloFresh gives you all you need to make a really delicious meal right at home.
They have made my life so much easier.
Easy, affordable, really, really good and flavorful.
Tastes so good. Oh my God.
Use code YouTube16FM for 16 free meals plus first box ships free.
He's got the wings, he's got the size, and he's making that horrible booming noise. A video like this is enough to make you go on a conspiracy theory deep dive. Out of all the footage I've shown you so far, I would say that I believe this one is real the most. It just kind of looks like the real thing. Of course, if it is real, you better put a squid on your head and start praying to your new god, because all the other ones are dead.
And we're starting off this list today with the Werewolf of Defiance. It's the summer of 1972. Two railroad workers were hard at work on the Norfolk and Western Railway when all of a sudden, one of them, Ted Davis, looked up to see a large wolf-like creature with a wooden board grasped between its paws, which it then whacked the man in the shoulder with before turning off into the bushes to run away like a coward. 5 days later, Ted and his coworker Tom Jones returned to the railway for another day's work, hoping they wouldn't be seeing the big furry monster again. Only they did. Only this time it was a bit of a safe distance away. Not that I'd ever feel a safe distance away from a werewolf, but that's just me. And then they reported the sightings to the police. Right around this time, more and more Wolfman sightings began piling in, and locals began to panic about the potential of being mauled by a 6-foot-tall werewolf. Imagine actually feeling that was a possibility. Like you're heading out to the grocery store and you're like, damn, really hope I don't run into a lycanthrope today. That's their life, apparently, in Ohio. Up next, we have the Loveland Frog. This mysterious creature has been reported to have been sighted in Loveland, Ohio. The amphibious creature is said to resemble a bipedal frog, standing upright on its hind legs, measuring up to 4 feet tall. Not that big, but pretty big for a frog, though. Got leathery skin, webbed fingers and toes. You all know how frogs look. And it's also got those iconic glowing large eyes. The first reported sighting of the Loveland Frog was in 1955, when a man claimed to have seen 3 of them on the side of the road holding some kind of strange wand-like device. Again, only in Ohio would you spot 3 large frogs practicing magic under a bridge. I really gotta visit Ohio sometimes. It just seems like such a fantastical place. Again, Narnia got nothing on Ohio. Anyway, since that initial 1955 sighting, there have been several other ones, including one by a police officer in 1972 who reported seeing a creature fitting the description of the Loveland Frog scuttling across the road and then hopping over the guardrail into the Little Miami River. Another officer even claimed to have shot at the creature, but it escaped. Some people believe the Loveland Frog is an escaped exotic pet or mutated frog, while others speculate that it is a supernatural type of creature. At number 8 on the list, we have melonheads. The melonheads are a group of cryptids that have been reported to have been sighted in various locations in Ohio, but are primarily found in the Cleveland suburb of Kirtland. These creatures are said to be small in stature with large, bulbous heads and distorted facial features. According to legend, they were the result of an experiment gone wrong in which scientists conducted unethical experiments on orphans, resulting in the creation of these strange bobble-headed beings. Some variations of the story also claim that the melonheads are the descendants of a family who suffered from a rare genetic disorder, maybe, that caused their heads to grow abnormally large. Some even say they could be of extraterrestrial origin, which whatever they are, though, I want to see one. I'm telling you, I'm coming to Ohio to go on a full cryptid scavenger hunt, and I'd better see me a weird deformed melon head. At number 7, it's Bessie. The Bessie Lake Monster, or the Lake Erie Monster. It's a legendary creature that is said to inhabit Lake Erie. The creature is described as a big, similar in appearance to the Loch Ness Monster, kinda long-necked, humpback, as well as a serpentine kind of dinosaur-like body. The first reported sighting of Bessie dates back to 1973 when a duck hunter saw a large serpentine-like creature thrashing in the lake and startled by his gunshots. And since then, numerous sightings have been reported over the years. Some eyewitnesses claim to have seen the creature swimming close to their boats or even on the shore, while others have reported hearing strange, eerie sounds coming from the water. Despite many attempts to capture or study the creature, there is no concrete evidence of its existence. However, the legend of Bessie persists, and many people believe that there is something mysterious lurking beneath the surface of Lake Erie. When it comes to creatures that reside in the water, I gotta say, seems plausible. We don't spend a lot of time underwater, Lots could be lurking in those murky depths. You never know. Number 6, Mothman of Gallia County. Most of us have probably heard of the infamous Mothman. Large, winged, glowing red eyes. It was first reported in West Virginia in 1966, but one of the most famous sightings of this large flying insect was over the Silver Bridge that connected Point Pleasant, West Virginia to the village of Gallipolis, Ohio. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but I think it's Gallipolis. This sighting happened just a year after the first reported Mothman sighting, and right around the time when the creature was spotted on the Silver Bridge, it collapsed. And some still believe that this mysterious cryptid was the one responsible. There have also been reported Mothman sightings before other big disasters, which has led some to speculate as to whether Mothman is a bad omen or if it simply appears as kind of like a warning of impending doom, bad or good. Orange eyes. Now, this is a Sasquatch type creature that could very well be the same type of creature as a couple others we'll be discussing on the list. There are many Sasquatch variations seen throughout Ohio, but this one is famous for, as you could probably imagine, it's got these glowing orange eyes. There have been reports of strange creatures with orange eyes lurking in Ohio, said to reside in the Riverside Cemetery before moving to the woods by Mill Lake. Witnesses described the creature as resembling a large bipedal humanoid with a muscular build and a hunched posture. Its eyes, once again, seem to emit an otherworldly glow. The creature is reportedly very fast and agile and has been known to vanish into thin air when pursued. Some locals believe that Orange Eyes is a Bigfoot type creature, but there are also those theories that maybe a kind of supernatural being or extraterrestrial entity as well. And number 4, we have Dogman. Most Dogman reports come out of Michigan, but there have been sightings in Ohio as well. According to witnesses, the Dogman is a bipedal, wolf-like creature that stands between 6 and 7 feet tall with a muscular build and a snarling dog-like face. The first reported sightings of the Dogman in Ohio occurred in the late 1980s. Since then, there have been numerous other sightings reported in the state. Witnesses have reported seeing the creature hunting in the woods, stalking prey, even running across highways at high speeds. Some skeptics believe that the sightings, of course, may be misidentifications of known animals like bears or wolves, while others believe that the Dogman is a real undiscovered species that is yet to be officially documented by.
When type 2 diabetes drained Tasha's energy, Crystal Run Healthcare helped her get back to living life on her own terms. Watch Tasha's story at crystalrunhealthcare.com/Tasha. The people of Crystal Run Healthcare. Changing healthcare, changing lives.
By science. Number 3, the Crosswick Monster. Now, there's only one report of this cryptid, but it's quite the entertaining tale. It's like something out of a classic 1950s monster movie or something like that, and it's a pretty famous piece of Ohio cryptid folklore. The story goes that in 1882, 2 boys, Ed and Joe Lynch, began hearing strange sounds coming from the tall grass of a bush behind them. They were fishing, and then before they had time to think, a large 4-legged lizard creature popped out from the bushes and began making its way toward them. The boys tried to make their escape, but it caught the 13-year-old Ed in its mouth and began dragging him towards a large hollowed-out tree. 3 men had heard the boys screaming and managed to make it to Ed's aid before he was pulled into the tree, although he was badly injured. A group of about 60 men were formed armed with axes and clubs, and they tried to slay the beast, but the creature managed to escape, actually standing on its hind legs at one point. Pretty horrifying. The group chased the creature, which retreated into a hole under a large hill of rocks. The creature was never seen again. Described as black and white in color and roughly 12 feet in length. Number 2, the Minerva Monster. This has to be one of the most famous Sasquatch sightings in Ohio. In August of 1978, in the village of Minerva, the first sighting of the creature was reported by the Caton family, who'd seen a large hairy creature in the gravel pit outside of their property, looking to be about 300 pounds. It soon became known as the Minerva Monster and terrorized the Caton family on more than one occasion. They described seeing it peering through their kitchen window one night. Awful. And when police came to investigate, they saw large footprints around their home with a terrible smell lingering in the air. The creature was also reported to have thrown rocks at their home one day, and they even reported seeing 2 large hairy bipeds on a hill by the strip mine near their property. The family has been adamant about what they saw ever since, and their story has remained consistent. It wasn't just the Catons who had run-ins with the large ape-like creature, though. Other locals began reporting seeing a similar creature in and around the Minerva area around the same time. And that's going to bring us to our number 1 spot, the Ohio Grassman. There's a very good chance that the Minerva Monster and Orange Eyes are the very same creature I'm describing here, as they're all big, all furry, ape-like creatures. Grassman is pretty much Ohio's nickname for Bigfoot, described as a large, hairy, bipedal creature standing between 7 and 9 feet tall. Grassman is said to have human-like face and a muscular build. Witnesses have reported hearing eerie vocalizations and howls coming from the woods, as well as seeing large footprints that they believe belong to the creature. The first reported sightings of the Ohio Grassman occurred in the late 1800s, but the creature gained widespread attention in the 1970s when multiple sightings were reported in the state. Since then, there have been numerous other sightings reported in the area, while some skeptics dismiss the sightings, of course, as misidentifications of, animals or even hoaxes. Others believe that the Grassman is real and he's an undiscovered species. So I don't know, what do you think? As always, let me know your thoughts in the comments.
When you play, life tastes better. Let's play with Carolina Rice.
Alright, coming in at number 10, we have The Haunted Oprah Winfrey Show. What? The Oprah Winfrey Show is famously filmed in the Windy City, near the spot of one of the worst boating disasters of all time. Now, this resulted in the largest loss of life from an incident in the Great Lakes. In 1915, passengers were boarding the SS Eastland, which was docked in the Chicago River. Workers from Hawthorne Works were off to a picnic. It was a full boat, and this caused weight distribution issues, and then the boat listed to one side, rolling. This trapped some passengers below decks, others were crushed by heavy furniture. 844 passengers and 4 crew members died in the disaster. The dead were taken to a nearby armory building, which served as an impromptu morgue. Fast forward decades, and this building is now a warehouse and a film studio where the Oprah Winfrey Show is filmed. Many members of the show's crew have reported seeing and hearing strange things in the building. There have been reports of screams from the doomed passengers and even some apparition sightings. The most frequently spotted ghost is the Grey Lady, who is often seen stalking the halls. Coming in at number 9, there are 12,000 corpses underneath Lincoln Park. Parks, gotta love them. Green spaces, picnics, lemonade, a few cheeky beers, some banter, frisbee, fun times, and thousands of dead people. Wait, what? Yep, that's right. Rumor has it that Lincoln Park is built on an old cemetery, and surprisingly, this urban legend is true. Between 1843 and 1865, there were 4 different cemeteries in the spot where the public park now is. The city was eyeing up a spot for the park, and after the fire of 1871, they had the perfect excuse to start again. While some bodies were exhumed and moved, around 12,000 remained under the park. When the zoo was built in 1962, bodies
bodies were unearthed and reburied. With that many bodies, is there any surprise that there have been a number of ghost sightings in the area? Coming in at number 8, we have the legend of Mrs. O'Leary and the fire that killed 300 people. The Great Fire of Chicago is one of the most horrendous things that happened to the city. 3.3 square miles of city burnt from the 8th to the 10th of October 1871. This also left hundreds of thousands of people without homes. The popular legend blames Mrs. O'Leary, you know the song, late last night, before she went to bed. Mrs. O'Leary, she hung a lantern in her shed, and then the cow, he kicked it over and he winked at her and said, "It'll be a hot time in the old town tonight," right? You know the score, basically. We all know the score. I'm from England and I know the score. Now the problem is, poor old Mrs. Leary never actually did it. She was a poor Irish Catholic immigrant and was made a scapegoat because of Protestant founders of the US being distrustful of Catholics. Also, there was a lot of anti-Irish racism around the time. Reported by Michael Aaron of the Chicago Tribune, he actually was to blame for fanning the flames on Mrs. O'Leary's reputation. But it was already destroyed because people across the world are still singing songs about it today. She was pardoned by Chicago City Council in 1997, as was the cow, but of course it was far too late for them. Nonetheless, the legend lives on today. Continuing with the Great Fire of Chicago, we have the haunted water tower at number 7. In the fire, legend has it that one brave citizen pumped water from the iconic Chicago water tower to try and help quell the flames. The water tower on Streeterville survived the blaze as a result of the man's actions. He proved himself a hero as he manned the pumps instead of fleeing for his life. Then, as the metal structure got hotter and hotter, the flames rose around him. The man knew he was gonna die. Rather than die slowly and painfully, the legend has it that he hung himself from the structure. Legend also has it that sometimes people still see his body hanging through towers upstairs. This has been confirmed by a police officer who saw his body hanging through a window, but then when he went to investigate, there was no one there. Coming in at number 6, we have the Devil of Hull House. Is this the real-life story behind Rosemary's Baby? The story spawned the popular movie, and this could actually be the true-life explanation. The Hull House was a focal spot in the Chicago community. Jane Addams took the building over in the late 1800s and ran it as a woman's shelter. Jane reportedly took in a woman who was heavily pregnant and whose husband had abandoned her. It seems the midwives in Jane's employ would not go near the child after it was born. Why? Because it had a monstrous appearance. The legend states that the baby was born a monster because his father yelled to the heavens in frustration of being given only daughters. He reportedly yelled, "I would rather have the devil in this house than have another daughter." What a man. Jane kept that baby a secret, but one day, 3 Italian women burst into the house and demanded to see the devil baby. They said they knew a baby had been born with pointed ears, a tail, and cloven hooves. The woman caused such a fuss and would not leave until forcibly removed. Then the locals started talking. Soon a crowd appeared at the house and people wanted to get a look at the child. The mystery was never resolved, but there have been many whispers of hauntings at the house. Some people report seeing the devil's face at the window of the house to this day. Coming into number 5, we have the legend of Homie the Clown. Homie the Clown is a classic Chicago urban legend and long predates the creepy clown sightings of 2016. In 1991, there were a slew of reports about a creepy clown cruising the streets trying to lure kids into a red and white blue van with "ha ha" written on the side. The clown was dressed as a TV character called Homie and was said to be offering up candy and money to children who would come with him. The police had a lot of reported sightings, mainly from children. They dismissed a report from 2 10-year-old boys in Oak Park, suggesting that the kids had banded together to troll the police. Nonetheless, this didn't quell the rumors, and a whole epidemic of sightings sprung up over the city. The clown, however, has never been caught. A lot of kids around the 90s in Chicago will remember Homie. Coming in at number 4, we have the machine guns of the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. The St. Valentine's Day Massacre is no urban legend. It was a very real and gruesome morning of bloodshed in 1929 during the gang-riddled era of Chicago. 7 members of the North Side gang were lined up and shot with a machine gun against the Lincoln Park garage. This led to further bloodshed between the Irish North Siders and the Italian South Siders, famously led by Al Capone. While legendary, this is irrefutable truth. The urban legend slips in as people claim the Clark Street spot is still haunted by the massacred souls to this day. Civilians report hearing screams in the area. There have also been a lot of reports of animals being freaked out as they pass by the spot. Coming into number 3, we have the knocking ghosts of Flight 191. On the 25th of May 1979, American Airlines Flight 191 crashed moments after takeoff from Chicago's O'Hare International Airport. 258 passengers and 13 crew were killed, as were 2 people on the ground. This insane death toll makes it the worst aviation accident in the United States history. Just as the jet was beginning its takeoff rotation, the left engine separated from the left wing and smashed into the runway, severing hydraulic fluid lines. As the plane began to climb, the damaged left side of the plane produced less lift and caused the plane to roll. This then made the plane crash into an open field by the airport, killing everyone on board. Now, the pictures from the aftermath are truly harrowing indeed. Debris was hurled into nearby trailer parks, which destroyed 5 trailers, but that wasn't all the trailer park would see of the crash. As the years went on, people living at the trailer park have reported frantic knocks at their door, only to open them and find that there's nobody there. One resident reported coming across a worried man who claimed he needed to make a connection. Another man in the area was walking his dog when he came across a man in a suit that smelled of gasoline. He told him that he needed to make an emergency call. Coming into number 2, we have the Italian Bride. Mount Carmel Cemetery is best known for being the final resting place of Al Capone and a number of his gangster cronies. Also resident in the cemetery is the much famed and deeply mysterious Italian bride. The bride wasn't actually a bride at all. She was a young woman named Giulia Baccola. Unfortunately, she died aged 29 in childbirth in 1921. Now, she was reportedly buried in her wedding dress, which sparked her urban legend name. Following her death, her mother had a string of wild and vivid dreams that her daughter was not dead. Julia would tell her that she was alive and she needed her help. She had to come to the cemetery and save her. Finally, 6 years after her daughter's death, the dreams got too much for Julia's mother, who had her daughter's body exhumed. When the casket was opened, Julia's body had not decayed one bit since the day she was buried. Creepily, on her gravestone, there's a picture of her body after she was exhumed, and yeah, she does look pretty freshly dead, which really sometimes is the best a gal can hope for. Finally, coming into number 1, we have one of the most popular Chicago urban legends of all time. We have the story of Resurrection Mary. Ah, the vanishing hitchhiker. This urban legend is pinpointed to the southwest of Chicago in Justice, Illinois. Since the 1930s, around 30 men who have been driving along Archer Avenue between Resurrection Cemetery and Willowbrook Ballroom have reported being hailed over by a young blonde-haired, blue-eyed woman in a party dress. Further reports say that she is wearing dancing shoes, a shawl, and holding a small clutch bag. The men that have stopped for her and let her in their car said that she's softly spoken and shy. The woman asks to be dropped off at Resurrection Cemetery, and then she disappears in front of the gates. The legend says that this girl was in the ballroom with her boyfriend in the 1930s, but they got into an argument and she decided to walk home. Sadly, as she was walking up Archer Avenue, she was hit by a car that then sped away. Left for dead, she unfortunately died at the scene, but her spirit is still searching for a chivalrous man to drive her home. Other reports have involved drifters braking suddenly when they see a woman in white in the middle of the road.
Starting off at number 10 now, we have Biringan City. This is a mythical city that's said to lie between the real Filipino areas of Gandara, Tarangnan and Pagsanghan. Here's the thing, it's said to be completely invisible. According to local folklore, the entire population of Biringan City is comprised of supernatural beings. They are shapeshifters who take human form and sometimes invite outsiders like us to visit their city. If you're invited, be aware that time does not move the same in this city. Seconds become minutes, minutes become hours. Some who say they've been there have left to find that they've been missing for weeks when almost no time has passed at all for them. The most common reports of the city come from sailors who claim to have seen a dazzling city of lights on moonless nights for a few minutes. They describe it as beautiful, with high-rise buildings and advanced technology. One story said that a Japanese company saw bright tracts of land in the area from a satellite image. Now, they thought it was gold and began setting up sites in a nearby town, but mysterious accidents and mishaps forced them to shut down the operation. Invisible City. Do you guys think that's the perfect cover, or a little bit far-fetched. Moving on to number 9 now, we're going to talk about the Encanto. Some people say these are actually the supernatural beings who inhabit the invisible city we just talked about. Either way, they are believed to live throughout the whole of the Philippines. The Encanto are mythical environmental spirits that are said to have the ability to appear in human form. They're often associated with the spirits of people's ancestors. Physically, they're meant to look like elves, sirens, and other sort of dark magical beings. They are similar to humans. They age, they have males and females, they can suffer from illness and even die. Some appear to be fair in complexion with blue eyes and golden hair. They live in natural homes such as large rocks or trees, but can make these appear like magical palaces to humans. They're enchanting creatures, but everyone who hears the stories knows to avoid them. They can cause fevers and skin diseases or lead travelers into the forest to kidnap them. Next up at number 8 now, we have the Sirena. These creatures are the Filipino version of merman. They are said to be hideous, with scales covering their entire bodies in colors ranging from brown to green and gill slits positioned in various places so that they can breathe in the water. Their upper bodies vaguely resemble the form of a man, tapering down to the tail of a fish with scale-encrusted legs and webbed feet. Various legends depict them with powerful green tentacles, fins, webbed hands, claws, and other appendages. They're also said to have very sharp teeth, which make them formidable predators. The scary part is they are hostile to all humans, who they drown in the depths of the sea and then devour as food. Also, many stories involve them causing shipwrecks just to eat the sailors on board. Their bloodthirsty nature, coupled with their extreme intelligence, makes them a terrifying predator. Kind of reminds me of another species we're all familiar with. Next up at number 7.
Everyone deserves a healthcare partner who's there for what matters.
And now we have the jeepney ride. This is a story shared by a Filipino girl about her friend. One day, her friend went home late after finishing off a school project. She took the local jeepney bus because it was late. A jeepney is a popular means of public transport in the Philippines. On the journey, she kept noticing the driver was looking at her in his rearview mirror. She got worried when he began to take turns in the road that he was not meant to. However, she was even more scared of being left in the middle of nowhere and so decided to not say anything. Eventually, though, he took them back onto the correct route and they arrived safely at her destination. He turned to her and said, "I'm sorry if I scared you or startled you. It was not my intention. Could you do me a favor and burn all your clothes when you get home?" He continued saying, "The reason why I kept glancing was because your head was not attached to your body when I looked at you through my rear view mirror. That is why I changed my route a while ago, hoping we could get away from this bad energy. And that's why I want you to burn your clothes when you get home, because I think it is still with you." The girl was obviously shocked by this and ran home, quickly burning her clothes in a fire. A few days later, she heard on the news that the driver had died a day after the incident. It was then that she realized the warning in the mirror was not for her, but for him. Next up at number 6 now, we have the Aswang. These are shapeshifters who live among their human neighbors without us ever knowing. They've been described as a ghoulish combination of a vampire and a werewolf. There seems to be no single, coherent, solid description of what these creatures look like. Some say it's essentially a werewolf in appearance, others say it's closer to a vampire. The only common theme is that the Aswang are always shapeshifters. They live normal lives among villagers, and then at night they change. The Aswang morph into various creatures to hunt their prey, which is usually young children or unborn fetuses, which they suck out and devour directly from the mother's womb. Very gross, I know, but it's part of the story when it comes to these hideous creatures. Moving on to number 5 now, we have the Tiyanak. This is otherwise known as the demon child and is another mythical creature in Philippine mythology. They are said to be babies who die before being baptized. After death, they go to a place called Limbo, which is neither heaven nor quite hell. They are transformed into evil spirits. The phantasms return to our world as these demonic goblin-like creatures looking to eat their human victims. It can also be the offspring of a demon and a human. Most Tiyanaks are said to live in the forest where, if they do see a human, they will transform into what looks like a normal baby, just lying on the ground. Naturally, most people will try and aid a helpless baby in the forest. When they get close though, that's when a demon child changes back to its true form and kills the helpless human. Next up at number 4 now, we have De La Salle University. This place is known as a place of learning around the country, but locals know it has a lot of dark stories within its walls. The main building is said to be haunted by soldiers who died bloody deaths in World War II. The chapel in this building was used by refugee families, many of whom were massacred by Japanese soldiers. Their spirits are said to live in these rooms rooms they called home for a while. In modern times, students have reported strange happenings in the chapel. One of them involved an accounting student visiting the chapel to pray before a big exam. As he settled into one of the pews, she heard footsteps coming towards her, which suddenly stopped. Then she felt a pair of hands on her face, and when she opened her eyes, there before her was a man in a torn and bloodied soldier's uniform. He had a bayonet through his chest and was gurgling for help through the pool of blood in his mouth. When telling this story to her friends, she assured them she knew it was a ghost, but she had never seen anything so real in front of her and just so terrifying. Moving on to number 3 now, we have the jellyfish blackout. On December 10th, 1999, in the city of Luzon, most of the lights went out. The city was plunged into darkness. Authorities said a large number of jellyfish had been sucked into the seawater intake of a major power plant near Manila, clogging up the mechanism. Reports began to spread that it wasn't just normal jellyfish that caused the blockage, it was giant mutant ones. They had been sucked up from the bowels of the ocean, and as soon as the blockage was cleared, they would begin terrorizing the city's waterways, even lurking in the sewers below people. Some say that's where they remain today, multiplying in numbers. Moving on to number 2 now, we have the duende. These are often called the dwarves of the Philippines. They are mythical creatures said to live in small hills around the country. The mounds are so small they actually resemble ant hills. They come out at specific times, 6 a.m, 12 p.m, 6 p.m, 12 a.m, and so on. They have pointed noses, hideous teeth, long white hair, and very angry eyes. They are said to bring you fortune or bad luck. Most people would rather avoid them altogether though. One story of them came from a guy who was burning old coconuts on a farm. It was around 6 p.m. He saw something shiny around the bushes. It blinked furiously. As he approached the bushes, something crawled out of it towards him. Standing there was a duende. It offered him a gold ring and told him to keep it, even though he didn't want to. He remembered his mum had told him that if he ever sees anything out of the ordinary when interacting with one of these creatures, just leave it be. Then the creature snapped its fingers and disappeared. Some people say if you take something from them, they will always ask for something in return, and it will be a whole lot of trouble for you to get it. And finally, at number 1 now, we have the Capri. He is also known as the smoking monster. This legendary creature is said to be as big as a 2-story building and hairy all over. It lies dormant in an old large tree in the forest. Generally speaking, they are friendly creatures, but only up to a point. You see, the Capri love to smoke tobacco. They almost always have some sort of cigar burning away. When travelers go to the mountains or the woods, they should be wary of the Capri. If he sees a beautiful woman walking past his tree, he will blow smoke out until it becomes an intoxicating cloud around her. At that point, she will lose consciousness and he will kidnap her. If she tries to fight or if someone tries to save her, the Capri will get violent. Likewise, the way to make a Capri very angry is to destroy his home or indeed any tree in that forest. When loggers mow down a whole forest and smoke is seen spiraling up from the ashes, they say the cloud of the Capri is looking for its next victim. Starting off at number 10 now, we have the Wrestle von Konnersreuth. That's a mouthful. This is a mystery surrounding Theresa Neumann, also known as the Wrestle von Konnersreuth. She was born in Bavaria in 1898 and lived a life shrouded in mystery and dominated by Nazi persecution. She also built up a devout Catholic following around her who believed she was connected to God. Now, she claimed to have been able to cure herself of ailments on multiple occasions throughout her life. At the age of 27, she was said to have cured herself from appendicitis, and then later on she healed herself from blindness. Then came the stigmata. Wounds began to appear on her hands and her feet in the same places where Jesus would have been nailed to on the cross. She also claimed that from the age of 25 onwards, she did not eat or drink a thing. Investigators were skeptical and observed her over 15 days, and they found that she did not eat anything during that time. Opinion is divided on the authenticity of her claims though. Some even believe they happened but are quite fearful of her. To this day though, she still has many adoring fans who are hoping she will one day become a saint. Next up at number 9 now, we have the White Lady. This one goes back hundreds of years ago and revolves around a girl named Anna Seidau. The King of Brandenburg, Joachim II, took her as his lover despite already having 2 wives. The two lived happily in the Grunwald, an area just outside of Berlin. They also had 2 children together. Sadly, their son died at the age of 9, but their daughter grew up to be Magdalene of Brandenburg, Countess of Arnberg. When Joachim succumbed to illness, he requested that one of his sons from a previous marriage, Johann, take care of Anna. Johann did not keep his promise. He kept Anna as a prisoner in Spandau Citadel. He married off Magdalene into a forced marriage. Anna remained a prisoner in her tower until her death, locked up and mistreated with the knowledge that her daughter's life was a misery. She died with anger in her heart. Now, locals say that Anna still wanders the galleries of Spandau Citadel. Visitors Neighbors report seeing the ghostly figure of a white lady roaming around, unable to leave and seemingly unaware of her surroundings. A morbid turn to this story came just a few years ago when restoration workers found bones in the citadel believed to be Anna's. They gave her a proper burial in the hopes of putting her spirit to rest, but if reports are true, it was to no avail.
I didn't play this
Next
shit
up,
in a minute. I gotta get used
the
to
Children's
the
Crusade.
button.
This is a pretty creepy story from the 13th century. Legend says that a German boy was visited by Jesus. Jesus told him to lead a crusade of children to Jerusalem and peacefully convert Muslims to Christianity. He convinced 30,000 followers to join him and led them south towards the Mediterranean Sea. Now he believed the sea would part for him like Moses and they would just walk along the sea floor towards Jerusalem. The sea did not part though, and the children were captured by various groups. Some of them were sold into slavery, others died in shipwrecks, others simply died from starvation or exhaustion. Moving on to number 7 now, we have Maria. Maria Renita Singer was a Bavarian nun who became famous in Germany in the early 18th century. If you're thinking she became famous for being an excellent nun, well, you come to the wrong video. She was notorious for being a witch. She became a nun in Bavaria in 1699 at the age of 19. She rose up the ranks and by 1740 she was appointed sub-prioress of her convent. In 1746, one of her nuns, Cecilia, became afflicted with convulsions and claimed to be possessed by demons and poltergeists. The attacks also started to affect other nuns too. One of them even died. At that point, people began accusing Maria of being a Satanist and a sorcerer. The Catholic Church then conducted an exorcism during which the nuns rolled on the ground and, quote, howled and snapped like mad cats. The investigators searched the convent, including Maria's room. They found poisons, ointments, and strange robes. They confronted her with the evidence, and she confessed. Maria admitted that she was a Satanist and a witch. She said that at the age of 7, she swore herself to Satan. Age 12, she became a prostitute and learned magic and how to mix potions. In 1694, she was baptized at a black mass, and in 1699, she had entered the nunnery to infiltrate and corrupt them. Well, it certainly worked. She was remorseful about what she had done, but the church still found her guilty of sorcery and executed her. Next up on number 6 now, we have the Hinterkaifeck murders. In 1922, an entire family living at the Hinterkaifeck farm in Germany were killed by blows from a pickaxe. The parents, their widowed daughter, her children, and the housekeeper were all found dead. 4 of them in the barn and 2 of them in their beds. Here's a really creepy thing. The murderer continued to live at the farm afterwards, with the family's dead bodies just there for some time. Police knew this because the animals were still being fed, neighbors saw smoke coming from the chimney, and when they arrived to investigate, the dog was tied up outside the barn. It gets creepier. Before the murders, the family had reported hearing footsteps in the attic. They saw footsteps in the snow that led from the woods to the house, but not the other way, and they also found claw marks on the door of the tool shed. That's where they kept the pickaxe that was used to kill them. The crime was never solved. Next up at number 5 now, we have Lorelei. According to German folklore, there was once a nymph that lived by the Rhine River. If you aren't familiar with what that is, nymphs are said to be mythological spirits of nature that usually take the form of a beautiful woman. Lorelei lived on top of a steep rock. She was said to dress in white and wore a wreath of stars in her hair. They said that she was beautiful, but that she also sang a song so haunting and hypnotizing that no sailor could resist her aura. No one who was drawn to her ever returned to tell the tale. Instead, they would be dashed against the rocks. Today, a statue marks the spot where Lorelei has been spotted over the years. Some take it as a warning to turn back before it's too late. Moving on to number 4 now, we have the Rubsal. In German folklore, this is a mountain spirit. He's also a giant. He roams the mountains and is known for his love of trickery. He's friendly to good people and will teach them medicine and even give them presents sometimes. If someone annoys him though, they can expect a harsh trick pulled on them. The legend of Rubsal has been around for thousands of years, going right back to pagan times. They say he is the fantastic lord of weather and is similar to the legend of the wild hunt that we actually talked about in another video. He has great powers and can summon lightning and thunder, fog, rain and snow from the mountain above, even while the sun is shining. He may take the appearance of a monk and sometimes he holds a harp. I'm not sure how scary a harp is, but yeah, there you go. Moving on to number 3 now, we have King Watzmann. As the story goes, this king once ruled the lands of southern Bavaria. He was a bloodthirsty leader with absolutely no regard for human life. Locals said he was an evil man, and they had good reason to think so. Apparently, he and his family enjoyed hunting local peasants. That's right, they rode around just killing their own people for sport. One day though, their terrors caught up to them. After slaughtering a whole family, they were cursed. The whole family was turned to stone for their sins and entombed in the Berchtesgaden mountain range. To this day, locals say the 7 peaks there are actually the 7 members of the family, forever encased in stone. Next up at number 2 now, we have the story of Princess Brunhilde. In Germany's Harz mountain range lies the Rostrap Hill. It's ancient and gnarled, sometimes difficult to climb, but those who do are awarded with an interesting sight, a hoof print in the rock on the cliff's edge.
Turning the imagined into reality for over 95 years. RS, imagine that. We can.
Now legend has it that this is where Princess Brunhilde escaped from a giant named Bodo who wanted to marry her. He chased her on her horse to the cliff edge, at which point her white stallion jumped across and reached the other side, while Bodo jumped after her and plunged to his death. The hoof print in the rock is said to be from the horse launching itself off the cliff. For the locals, it's a dark reminder of the magic that some say still exists in that place and the bloodthirsty giant that fell to his doom. And finally, number 1 now, we have the Sleeping King. According to official sources, the legendary King Frederick Barbarossa drowned in modern-day Turkey during the Third Crusade. According to this legend though, he never died, he's just sleeping. People say he still sleeps in a hidden chamber underneath the Kaifhauser Hills. They say he sits motionless at a stone table and his beard has kept growing over the centuries. They say he waits there until his country's hour of greatest need, where he will awaken from his slumber and emerge from under the hill. They say the ravens on the hill is a sign of his presence there, and that if they ever disappear, Barbarossa will be emerging very soon. Now some people might love that sight, others might be a bit disturbed at the sight of a 900-year-old undead king stumbling towards them. How do you feel?
At number 10, we have earthquake weather. If you live in LA, then earthquakes are a constant fear. They happen all the time, and there's always that ominous tension of the massive earthquake that might wipe out all of California. I understand how that can make it hard to sleep, but some people think that an earthquake can be predicted by the weather. There's been a long-standing urban legend that windier days mean an earthquake is on the way. I would just like to debunk this right now and say that this is 100% not true. There's no sort of lead-up weather that tells you whether or not an earthquake is about to hit and a shockwave bubble is going to come out of the Earth's belly. If there were some warning signs, we would all know by now. The basis of this urban legend actually comes from Aristotle's theory that earthquakes were from rumbling wind in underground tunnels. Yeah, so it's a kind of a old-timey idea. At number 9, we have the Santa Ana winds. Throughout LA, you might feel a warm blast of the Santa Ana winds. This is from high-pressure winds flying across the Great Basin. Scientifically, it's a pretty normal occurrence, but there have been legends that say the Santa Ana winds are connected to people going absolutely crazy. It's said that the winds bring dark energy into a person's soul that will make them violent and unpredictable. The winds work their way into your bones and mind and push you over the edge. Maybe all those dark thoughts that you've been having will no longer be thoughts, but they will become reality. Or it could just be that when it gets a little hotter, people get a little bit more irritable. But the supernatural theory is so much more exciting. At number 8, we have the Colorado Street Bridge. One of the most famous places in the Los Angeles area, this bridge stood the test of time in the rough earthquake environment of California. Even though the bridge stands as a monument to stability, it has actually built a rather poor reputation of building a main place for people to commit suicide. Now this could be because it's a very high bridge and that's all it really takes for a bridge to be a suicide location. But there's a ghostly myth that is attached to it. Apparently in the construction of the bridge back in 1912, a construction worker lost his footing and fell to his death. Not only that, but it's said that his body fell into wet concrete, and by the time anyone was able to get to him, he had sunken so deep in that no one could find him. This led to his body being encased in the bridge forever. Now his spirit is forever attached to the bridge, and his spirit is very angry, so angry that it goes out to find suicidal people to come to the bridge and persuades them to jump off. It's scary to think that there's a supernatural force in LA trying to undo all of my expensive therapy. At number 7, we have the Black Dahlia murder. This is one of the most famous murder mysteries in history. The story has been turned into most every imaginable form of entertainment. It was January 1947. A body was discovered brutally hacked in half. The scene was so violent that many of the officers who turned up to the the crime scene couldn't hold together and started vomiting. What made this such an interesting case was that the woman murdered, Elizabeth Short, was an actress. This made the story very Hollywood and the media ran with it. It was the newspaper headline that gave this case the famous name, the Black Dahlia murder. An extensive investigation happened, one of the most expensive investigations in all of LA police history, but no conviction was ever made. Since then, many people have come forward claiming to be the person who killed Elizabeth Short, but all of these claims have turned out to be false, just killers trying to get a little bit of fame. In terms of urban legends that have followed this, there are hundreds. My favorite being that she was killed by an underground Hollywood cult, that her body was sacrificed so secretive and rich people could perform some sort of sick ritual. But I have already covered that we will never know the truth. At number 6, we have Gravity Hill. It should be no surprise that a place with a name like Gravity Hill has something happening that defies physics. Even though we really don't understand gravity to its fullest, we do know that it makes things move down towards the Earth. That's about as good as you're gonna get out of me. But at Gravity Hill and Loma Alta Drive, we have something that will make your head spin. If you park your car at the base of the hill and put your car into neutral, it will start to roll uphill. It's said that back in the 30s, there was a school bus full of kids that died in a crash, and it's their ghosts pushing you up the hill to make sure you don't die in a horrible car wreck. It's even said that if you leave baby powder on your bumper, there will be little handprints left on your bumper. That's very scary. At number 5, we have Orson Welles in the pink. Here's a fun one for you. There has been an urban legend about Orson Welles that has been hanging around Tinseltown for over 50 years. The legend is that Orson Welles scarfed down 18 Pink's hot dogs in a single sitting. Now, Orson was a big man in his later years, but 18 hot dogs thrown down your gut in one meal is pretty impressive. I mean, for a regular person. I'm not trying to compare him to Kobayashi or Joey Chestnut.
In the time it takes me to eat one hot dog, Joey scarfs down 10. Here's how
I mean, Orson wasn't getting any world record, which is 74 hot dogs if you're wondering. That is obscene. What would your poop be like after you eat that many hot dogs? It would either be toxic, you need to poop like directly in one of those chemical waste bags, or maybe it just comes out as perfect hot dogs and then they just repackage them and sell them again. I don't know. But back on track, there is no evidence that Orson Welles actually did this. A lot of people think this rumor started by Pinks to sell more hot dogs, and Orson was an easy target because he clearly loved to eat. At number 4, we have the Charred Man. Just an hour drive outside of LA is the Camp Comfort Country Park. You can go there and camp and have a nice little fire and sing along to songs played on an acoustic guitar by someone who doesn't really know how to play them. But if Friday the 13th has taught us anything, it's that a campsite is worth nothing unless an evil force is trying to kill you. And the Camp Comfort Country Park has the Charred Man. It's said that in the forest of the park there's a beast engulfed in flame that will try to kill anyone it encounters. Its origin is unknown, but one of the more popular stories is that a child died in a fire, and this is his spirit filled with rage, ready to grab someone and take them down to the pits of Hades. At number 3, we have the Comedy Store basement. The Comedy Store is now one of the most famous comedy clubs in the world, having all the heavy hitters perform there on a regular basis. But before it was a lightning rod for comedic talent, it was a restaurant called Ciro's. Not only was this place known for great cuisine, but it was also a boardroom for some of LA's greatest gangsters. Famous mobster Mickey Cohen used to hold meetings in the basement, and by hold meetings, I mean he would torture people for information and then murder his competitors. Some employees of the Comedy Store said that they've heard screams from people yelling out for help while they're walking through the basement. That is very unsettling. At number 2, we have the Turnbell Canyon. What makes this canyon so spooky? It's just a very big hole in the ground. Well, lots of things make this place creepy. There have been a history of ghostly sightings all around the canyon. The ghost of a Native American man wandering around with glowing yellow eyes, as well as a ghost wolf said to hunt down anyone walking at night. But the creepiest one is about a cult that used to use the canyon to perform dark rituals. It says that the canyon was the perfect place to perform these practices because it was hidden away from the city, but also because the canyon has a dark energy that allowed the cult to connect to demons and other evil entities. It's even said that the cult would use child sacrifices to increase the potency of these practices. That's dark. And for the number 1 spot, we have the Queen Mary's Door 13. Classic. There are plenty of tourist attractions in LA, and a lot of them have supernatural twists to them. But one of the greatest ones is the Queen Mary, a massive cruise ship that has a ton of hauntings on it. But the centerpiece of this whole haunted boat is Door 13. The door is deep inside the ship, and it's said to have several dark spirits attached to it. And if you think it's lame because who cares about a haunted door, well, I'll have you know that it said that this door has crushed several people to death. That's why I put it as number 1 on this list. A killer door sounds the pitch for a D-level horror movie, but let's see what you say after it decapitates you from sticking your head too far in.
Coming in at number 10, NASA is hiding alien life on Mars. This is a classic and long-held conspiracy belief. For a long time, tin hat theorists have had theories about what is going on our neighboring red planet and have accused NASA of knowing more than they let on. In the 1970s, NASA sent probes Viking 1 and Viking 2 to study Martian soil, then rovers Spirit and Opportunity to Mars. While everything they found hasn't been released to the public, we do know quite a lot. The theories out there range from mustache twiddling sounding to wacky whack whack. Sometimes I just make sounds instead of saying words. The milder suggestions are that NASA are hiding alien fossils up there. Others say that they're purposefully avoiding looking for life. Others have gone full throttle and have accused NASA of hiding a race of alien human half-breeds up there for the past 40 years.
We are shaped by our emotions. Spread your wings and soar with freedom's blessings. Overcome your fears and keep calm in the face of the shadowy dangers ahead. Cherish the blissful memories that you've made with your friends. Immerse yourself in the fascinating secrets of the watery depths.
Coming in at number 9, we have the boombox. So word of mouth has it that a NASA engineer has developed a specialist piece of equipment to battle the rising threat of terrorism, and it was being tested out at an airport in Israel. The legend says that NASA tech was used to create a specialist scanner that would detonate any explosive that was within it. So in practice, anyone suspected of wearing a suicide vest could be put in the upright scanning booth, and if they were innocent, they would be fine, but if they had any explosives on them, then they would be detonated in the sealed cell. Snopes have looked into this one, and I'll let you guess what they found. Coming in at number 8, we have the quarantine. It is widely believed that NASA has a strict protocol for people who come into contact with aliens. It is thought that those who report seeing aliens are visited by special secret agents before they leak their news stories. Why? Well, apparently NASA wants to keep us in the dark when it comes to alien life. Conspiracy theorists who believe this often cite the small print of Title 14, Section 1211 of the Code of Federal Regulations. And this actually does say that NASA has the power to quarantine anyone that comes into contact with people or objects returning from space. This is allegedly a safety measure that came to pass in the Apollo 11 era. Although the truth has been manipulated a bit, it makes sense to quarantine people returning from space if they've been outside of their spaceships, because space materials such as moon dust, for example, could contaminate the Earth and mess with our ecosystem. This is of course just a biological precaution, but there are some people out there who have taken this to mean that men in black are coming for you if you so much as see errant lights in the sky. Side note, I really loved Men in Black. Like, I don't think they should remake it, but I'm definitely up for like another movie screening of it. Has it been 20 years yet? Must have been. Coming into number 7, we have the secret shuttle. I have to say that this one is a bit of a mystery. It's pretty suspicious. NASA has allegedly had a secret space shuttle in orbit for the past 2 years. What it is up to, we simply don't know, but it has been spotted on a number of occasions by people with long exposure lenses. It is said that the craft, an X-37B, was launched from Elon Musk's SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket at NASA's Kennedy Space Station in Florida. We know that the USA largely considers space a national security risk, so perhaps these secret orbit missions have something to do with that. Coming into number 6, we have the UFO live stream. On July the 9th, 2016, NASA was live streaming from the International Space Station when 2 mysterious unidentified flying objects were spotted flying in the background. Weirdly, the stream was cut just as the objects were spotted. YouTube channel StreetCap1 uploaded a video about it, suggesting that it could have been proof of alien life and that NASA didn't want us to see it. NASA spokesman Daniel Holt told CBET that actually the live stream was not cut deliberately, it was just a coincidence. Or was it? A lot of alien conspiracy theorists have taken this as evidence that the truth is out there, but NASA do not want us to know about it. The fact that we haven't solved world hunger, national poverty divides, or even local disadvantage makes this one pretty scary. Coming in at number 5, we have the $1 billion ballpoint pen. A pen that works in space is actually a lot harder to come by than it sounds. It seems that ballpoint pens don't work in space, and pencils aren't great either as they break, and tiny bits of lead just aren't great for floating around in spaceships. The story goes that NASA thought it was truly integral to be able to write in space, so they spent millions of dollars creating a pen that works at zero gravity in cold conditions. These days, with inflation, that figure is said to be $12 billion. That makes it the world's most expensive pen in history. This is crazy because I write for a living, but I haven't touched a pen in months. It seems that there is a shred of truth to this legend. NASA stocked its astronauts with a pen patented by Paul C. Fisher. Now, he invested $1 million of his own money into it, but that doesn't make for such a fun tale. You can actually buy a 50th anniversary edition of said pen, perfect for those planning a trip to space this year. Coming into number 4, we have the fake moon landing. Time and time again, NASA have been accused of faking the moon landing, and if that were true, it would be so scary, not least because of the whole lying to the whole world thing. Why? Why would the moon landing have been faked? What reason would they have for doing this? Well, apparently the reasoning behind the widespread conspiracy is that the United States wanted to win the Cold War, but honestly, winning the space race to the moon was kind of risky. It kind of stoked the fire a little bit. Theorists say that the whole thing was filmed in a studio and that NASA and the American government wanted to manipulate minds of the world into believing the USA was the greatest country. Basically, it was one very expensive piece of propaganda. How far would the government go to get people to believe the lie? Well, again, according to theorists, the CIA and NASA were involved in destroying evidence and murdering witnesses. Do I believe this? No, I don't. But if it were true, then it would be one of the greatest lies and biggest cover-ups of all time. Coming into number 3, we have aliens during the moon mission. While the majority of people do admit that NASA did manage to get to space and land on the moon, a lot of people think that they haven't been honest about what they found. Rumor has it that during the Apollo 10 mission, astronauts heard alien music as they orbited the dark side of the moon, and others say that Buzz Aldrin spotted alien activity during the Apollo 11 moon landing mission. The astronaut himself has since denied it. Coming into number 2, NASA wouldn't tell us if we were doomed, or so they say. NASA knows a lot more than we do when it comes to the fate of our planet. Face it. The average human has never looked through a telescope, let alone had the ability to understand and monitor what's going on around our planet for thousands and thousands of light years. We know that a supervolcano could erupt and devastate countries and states. A tsunami could sweep an ocean village away forever. A tornado could rip through the heart of a country, etc., etc. But we only know about these things because we're told in advance. Without being told in advance, we would only find out when it was too late. The same thing goes for asteroids and astronauts and flying bits of space junk, or even wilder, alien invasions. NASA would know about life-altering asteroid collisions long before it happened, and while it's likely that something would be assembled to try and stop it, belief has it that the space organization would not tell us if we were doomed for fear of inciting panic or anarchy. Finally, coming into number 1, NASA is creating a black hole that will kill us all. We know that black holes exist out there in space, but the nearest one to us is thousands of light years away. Because we know so little about black holes and what happens on the other side of them, there are scientists out there trying to replicate the conditions on Earth. It seems that this possibly could be done using the world's largest and most powerful particle accelerator, the Large Hadron Collider. Hearsay and rumor have it that NASA are trying to make a black hole using the 17-mile-long collider, and if they did, the world could be sucked into a giant vacuum of nothingness. In actuality, NASA have nothing to do with the collider. It's a project by CERN, the European Organization for Nuclear Research. Also, guys, you can sleep safely for now. The Collider project is on hiatus for 2 years. So thunder is a very big part of most Native American cultures, and this legend comes from the Cherokee. At number 10, we have the Thunder Boys. Okay, there are actually 2 concerning Cherokee myths and legends about thunder. One is a legend that involves so-called little people who cause sharp claps of thunder that can then cause lightning strikes near women, which then, in turn, causes them to be impregnated with another little person who's destined to be born and continue the lineage of small thunder people forevermore. Creepy, right? The most popular legend is of the Thunder Boys though, the sons of the first man who live in the Earth's cliffs, mountains and waterfalls. The Thunder Boys bring rain which also bless the Earth, but they can also choose to harm people and bring about mischief. I love a bit of mischief. How about...
We all love to play.
Whether you play for an hour or for 24.
Let's do it.
In the end, it doesn't matter why you play. No matter the reason, we see you. So keep on doing what you love.
About you. Next up, a legend that is very close to my adopted home in Toronto. Coming into number 9, we have the Dragon of Lake Ontario. According to the Seneca people, there is a fire-breathing dragon that lives in the rivers and lakes of Canada, but most prominently in Lake Ontario, so I better watch out when I'm on the Toronto Islands over the summer. I might be snatched up by Gasyenditha. Yes, it's a tongue twister and a big monster. Gasyenditha was thought to have traveled to Earth in a meteor and landed in the lake that sits amid the border of the USA and Canada. The story of the dragon permeates both Native American and early settler history. Back when Toronto was called York and Canada wasn't even its own thing yet, European settlers noticed something going on in Lake Ontario. Was it a giant snake? Was it a trick to the eye? As the 1800s progressed and the city that would eventually become Toronto developed, more reports of a huge 30-foot snake in the lake just kept on surfacing. It seems the old Snakey in the Lakey liked to swim too. He was spotted in Kingston, Ontario, leading to the popular legends of Kingsty. Sure enough, the Seneca had called it long before the 1800s. Today, many cryptozoologists think that the lake monster could be some sort of relic plesiosaur, a large long-necked marine reptile still alive. The last time someone spotted Gasyenditha was in the late 1960s. Is it still out there? Has anyone seen it? Let me know. Coming into number 8, we have the legend of the animal's revenge. So, I hate to break it to you, but according to the Cherokee anyway, animals are not happy with us, and honestly, I guess who could blame them? The people of the Cherokee still exist today, and they originated in the Appalachians. It's my absolute dream to hike the Appalachian Trail one day, like I feel it in my bones. That being said, I'd need to do my best to appease the animals. It is a long-held native belief that once upon a time, animals and humans lived in peace and harmony. Back then, the power of all animals, including humans, was far more equal. But then the human population started to swell, which meant that we got a lot stronger. Legend has it that the animals met to discuss what they would do to protect themselves. It's said that a council of deers and bears met and decided to bring plague upon hunters who killed for sport rather than need. A council of birds, insects, and small animals concocted infectious diseases to spread to humans too. Now luckily, the plants are on our side, and they vowed that for every disease created by the animals, they would in turn create a cure. Sadly, there's no cure for human weapons like bullets and knives though, eh? Just a good old-fashioned hopeful stitch 'em up. Coming into number 7, we have the ancient burial grounds. Ancient native burial grounds. Don't mess with them. This is an enduring urban legend across America and basically the premise of the movie Poltergeist. There are many a ghost story that come from the building upon sacred ground, usually by big corporations who disregard the scare stories surrounding the land that they think is going to be profitable. One example comes from Rockrimon in Colorado Springs. It is alleged that a McDonald's was built on an ancient burial ground and an old Native American settlement. The Rockrimon restaurant in question has been haunted by an angry-looking Native American man with a dour face. Apparently the disgruntled ghost turns on taps, jangles keys, and produces phantom screams. Although I would say it could be a bit worse. There's not the whole TV sucking jelly thing. Coming into number 6, we have the bearers of bad news. Beware the owls, or so say the Cherokee. Owls are actually a very important part of a lot of Native American cultures. The owls, man. The owls are not what they seem. Did anyone else watch Twin Peaks? I personally love a good owl. It seems that the Cherokee people think that they're messengers, but not just any messengers. Owls bring about bad news or bad luck. For the Apache people, dreaming of an owl signifies an approaching death, and to the Cree people, answering an owl with a whistle and then hearing no response is another signifier of death. These owls, baddies. Coming into number 5, we have the ghost dance. The ghost dance is a relatively new religious movement that has been incorporated into a number of Native American beliefs. The dance was established in around the 1890s in accordance to the teachings of the Wavaka. The dance, which is still performed today by the Caddo of Oklahoma, is intended to reunite the living with the spirits of the dead, bringing the spirits back to fight white colonists and bring about peace and unity for the tribes. It is thought that by performing the dance, people can bring about a new world, which Sounds nice. Coming into number 4, we have the ice giant Chenu. The legend of Chenu comes from the Wabanaki people, and it is somewhat similar to the legends of the Sasquatch or the abominable snowman. Chenu is supposed to be a huge Bigfoot-like creature that lives in snowy plains. He was once a human who committed a horrible crime, which led to his heart freezing and him being turned into a troll-like monster who cared only to kill any human that he could find. All love and compassion is just a distant memory for this ice-cold baddie. Coming into number 3, we have the water panther. Ooh, this is another one from near my hood, although a lot of First Nations people across America believe in the water panther, not just the people of the Algonquin. I've been to Algonquin Park a few times, and I have to admit, it is pretty freaky at night. I wrote a whole blog post on my website about a night spent under a full moon in the park, which was actually very horrifying in many ways. But luckily I never encountered the water panther. The Cree, Algonquin and Shawnee people believe that there is a water monster, a giant-like dragon feline who dwells in rivers and lakes, who waits for humans to come close and then pulls them down and drowns them in the murky depths. The panther is said to have a tail that can hold stuff too, making it even better at killing. There is indeed a lake called Panther Lake in Algonquin National Park, which I feel like I should probably stay away from next time I do go back. I'd also probably stay away from Bandit Lake and Mouse Lake too, because ugh. Coming into number 2, we have the ghosts of Wounded Knee. The Wounded Knee massacre took place in Pine Ridge in Wounded Knee Creek on December 29, 1890. It seems that Spotted Elk, a leader on the US Army's list of troublemaking Indians, was stopped by officers who forced him to relocate with his people to Wounded Knee. The next morning, the US Army opened fire when one deaf member of a small Lakota tribe didn't relinquish his weapons. 23 United States soldiers died, mostly from their own friendly fire, and a whopping 153 Lakota, mostly women and children, were also killed too. These days, it is said by those who still live and work around the cabins and community of Wounded Knee that they can hear the cries of women and children echoing through the canyon, especially in the winter.
Mentos gum comes in a durable, recyclable paperboard gum bottle. You're welcome, Earth.
Finally, coming into number 1, we have He Who Must Not Be Named. This is kind of like a Native American Voldemort style thing. Now I know that J.K. Rowling's Dark Wizard is a work of fiction, and even if he wasn't, I'm a Slytherin and I fancy my chances in a cheeky duel, but I don't know about invoking the spirit of a Dark Soul Eater from the Choctaw tribe. They have a name for it, but I'm not gonna say it, because if the Choctaw avoids saying it at all costs, it seems like maybe we should respect that. It seems that this Soul Eater is a shadow who permeates into people's bodies, filling them with evil thoughts and oppression. Eventually, it creeps into their very souls and eats them alive. You absolutely do not want an encounter with this shadow spirit, so don't say his name.
Starting off at number 10 now, we have Agrasan Ki Bauli. Legend says that this was built by the legendary King Agrasan. It's an old, traditional stepped well with 3 levels and 103 steps. Many people consider it the most haunted place in Delhi. Visitors report a dark feeling washing over them when they stare down the levels into the water below. For many years now, locals warn of the black water that is found at the bottom of the well. They say it has powers, that it has the ability to hypnotize people and lure them over the edge where they then fall to their deaths. Some say the spirits live in the well, perhaps responsible for drawing people to their deaths, or maybe they are the spirits of those who have already died. The place is closed to the public at night, but that hasn't stopped some dark tourists from wanting to climb the walls and see for themselves if the suicidal pull of the well below really is true. Next, number 9 now, we have the Onion Witch. First of all, what a great name. In 2005, parts of Delhi were in absolute panic when a witch was said to be prowling the streets at night, and she was thirsty for blood. The witch, or sometimes 3 of them, were turning up at people's doors and asking them for an onion. That's a pretty strange request, but one that most people were obliging towards, especially given how creepy these witches were. A housemaid experienced this and said, when you give her an onion, she cuts it in half and blood starts dripping. Then you die instantly. Another witness said, she is an evil soul. She can disguise herself as someone you know. As you'd expect with stories like this, people were scared and they wanted to defend themselves from the witches. They say that only a palm print in turmeric or henna on the door can ward off the evil witch. Because of this, it wasn't uncommon at the time to see yellow handprints on houses all over the city. Although the rumours have died down in the years since then, some still say the Onion Witch stalks the streets, waiting for a gap in people's defences. Moving on to number 8 8 now, we have the White Lady. In Delhi, Kant, locals talk of a mysterious woman in white. They say she is seen at night, wrapped in a white sari, trying to hitchhike with any drivers who pass through. Those who have heard the stories will know not to stop and to give her a lift, for she is not of this world. She waves at people to catch her ride, but those who stop for her are never seen again. Even if people don't stop, they say that she runs after the vehicle at inhuman speeds, matching the speed of the car until the driver has left the area, at which point she disappears into thin air. Then there's the people who actually stop to ask her for directions. They say those people are then unable to find their way home for the entire night, going in circles around the city, completely lost until morning. There are a few theories about who this spirit was in life. Some say her life ended tragically, that on her last night on Earth, she asked some men for a lift to somewhere else in the city, raped and beat her in a moving car, and then dumped her body at Delhi, Kant. Ever since that night, her vengeful spirit has been stuck in a sort of death loop, asking for a lift and repeating the events of her death each and every night. Moving on to number 7 now, guys, we have the Jamali Kamali tomb. Jamali was the alias of Sheikh Jamali Kambo, a saint from the pre-Mughal era. Kamali was an unknown person buried next to Jamali. Their tomb has become the focus of a number of paranormal stories over the years. Shalatia was a Delhi University student who once went to explore the area with his friends, and he said, "I have heard that one gets to hear screams and slaps of angry spirits at Jamali Kamali." Another person in the park, a jogger, said, "After moving to Delhi, my brother used to jog here with me. One day he was alone, and while crossing Jamali Kamali, he felt a pat on his back. He stopped coming after that." Now, although that sounds pretty creepy, from what I've heard, he got off lucky. Other people have reported being fully slapped on the back, only to turn around and see nothing there at all. Next up at number 6 now, we have the Hindu milk miracle. In 1995, it was reported that statues of Lord Ganesh were drinking milk in Hindu temples. It all started when a worshipper in Delhi held a spoonful of milk close to the trunk of the idol and were amazed to see it disappear. The news spread like wildfire across the country as many people began to report the exact same thing in their own temples. From there, it spread around the world. Before long, temples in the UK, Canada, and the US were reporting the exact same phenomenon. Many Hindu organizations announced that a miracle was happening, made by the will of Lord Ganesh. Some scientists have claimed that the reasons were perhaps not spiritual but could be explained by science. They said the milk drinking was caused by a mix of surface tension, the capillary effect, and confirmation bias. Others disagree and say this miracle could happen again at any time. What do you guys think? Moving on to number 5 now, we have Feroz Shah Kotla Fort. Built in 1354, this structure used to be the headquarters of a dynasty that ruled over northern India. In the centuries since, its power has dimmed into a eerie silence. Locals say that spirits now live among the many dark alleyways and ruins there. This belief is so ingrained that every Thursday, locals can be seen lighting candles and incense sticks in the darkest spots of the fort. There, they lay offerings of milk and grain to appease the spirits, hoping that they grant their wishes. As this tradition spread and became more popular, it seems to have had a sort of inverse effect. It's said that these spirits stay in areas without many people around and naturally seek out darkness. The ever-increasing visitors are now said to be driving them away, perhaps into even darker parts of the surrounding area. Coming in at number 4 now, we have Sanjay Van. They call this place the Haunted Forest of Delhi. In a crowded city, it is eerily quiet. Some say this park is actually an abandoned graveyard that was used in ancient times. Now, despite its size, the park is relatively empty. Over the years, deep superstitions have developed about the forest, with locals swearing that it's haunted. Of all the creepy tales of spirits rising up from the graves, one of them stands out in particular, the Sari woman. People have seen her standing by the side of the road that goes through the forest. She is said to walk among the banyan trees before disappearing into thin air. Some reports say they've seen her hanging from her neck by the trees. This is actually how they say she died, hanging from the very same trees to end her life. In an interview, one local said, "She comes alive at night when those leaves start glowing. There are many such lovely spirits here." Yeah, he described her as lovely. I mean, I'm glad people can see spirits hanging from trees and think that's lovely, but I think I'd take the long way around that park if I saw that. Next up at number 3 now, we have the Monkey Man. In 2001, the Monkey Man was the talk of the town. He was said to be a hairy hominid creature that stood about 5 feet tall and was jumping between buildings. There was panic everywhere. Eventually, he began attacking people in their apartment blocks. Enough people saw him that a description began to be built up. Eyewitness accounts tended to describe the creature as wearing a metal helmet with metal claws, glowing red eyes, and 3 buttons on its chest. Many people reported being scratched, and a few people even died when they leapt from the tops of buildings or fell down stairwells in the panic brought on by the creature's sighting. Although it's been a fair few years since these bizarre events, some say the Monkey Man is still out there, he's just got a lot better at hiding. Coming in number 2 now, we have Kuni Nadai. That name directly translates to Bloody River, so you already know what you're getting into with this one. The small stream flows in West Delhi near the Rohini district. Locals believe it's haunted after many years of unusual happenings and mysterious incidents there. People rarely go near the water, and only if they absolutely have to. Legend says that if anybody touches the water, the stream will suck that person in instantly. Locals say it's happened several times in the past. However, people are divided on what exactly makes the stream haunted. Some say that spirits have always lived in the water there, dragging people to their deaths. Others say that in the past the stream was a popular suicide spot, and that the evil in the water is actually spirits of the dead who have now returned as ghosts. Residents also claim that they hear the sound of screaming and crying near the stream after dark. Whatever the reason for this, many people simply choose to find a different crossing. And finally, number 1 now, we have Karkaduma Court. We're going to finish on a more modern one here, guys. In September 2014, lawyers working at Karkaduma District Court returned to work one morning to find that all the computers were switched on. When this kept happening every single day, CCTV footage was reviewed. To everyone's shock, the computers were seen switching on by themselves, sometimes even when they were unplugged. Some lawyers began leaving the chambers and refusing to enter the library at times. Legend says that the spirit of another lawyer haunts the building. They say he lost his life in the floods of 2012. Many believe that it's his spirit that causes the chaos in the building. Paranormal investigators have visited the site numerous times and even claim to have taken a photograph outside the deceased lawyer's chambers that reportedly show an apparition that resembles him. What do you guys think about this? Would you refuse to go to work or school if this kept happening?
Coming in at number 10, we have the dinner ghost of the West Village. I love the Village in New York. Not only is it, in my opinion, one of the most beautiful parts of this city, it also has some of the nicest restaurants. I've never eaten at 1 if by land, 2 if by sea, but it is said to be a beautiful old carriage house dating back to 1767. The interior seems romantic, and at first glance, the scariest thing about this famed eatery seems to be the price of dinner, but things get a whole lot spookier. In fact, the old building is said to be haunted by not 1 but 20 ghosts. When speaking to New York's Eater magazine, manager Roseanne Martino said that she'd seen a lot of ghostly activity, including picture frames tilting, flickering lights, and even plates flying off tables and smashing on the floor. She even said that some waiters have tried to take orders from guests sitting at tables only to find that there's nobody there. Some paranormal investigators believe that a few of the 20 ghosts are famous too. One ghost could be that of former Vice President Aaron Burr, and another a former Broadway starlet who likes a candle to be lit for her. Coming in at number 9, we have the Asylum of Roosevelt Island. If you've got a spare $4,000 to $5,000 American dollars a month to spend on rent, then you could be lucky enough to live in the Octagon building on Roosevelt Island. Not only would you need to be wealthy, you also need to be pretty fearless, as the former lunatic asylum is said to be haunted. The island itself is a stretch of land on the East River between Manhattan and Queens. It used to be known as Welfare Island because of the number of hospitals and institutions on the spit. The building was abandoned for nearly 50 years from 1955. That was until it was turned into apartments. Residents of the building have occasionally come across spectres, but it is widely reported that pets categorically do not like the stairs. Dogs will regularly stop and bark at seemingly nothing. Do you want to be stuck on an island with ghosts? No, I don't think you do. Do you want to hear more about Roosevelt Island? If so, good. If the haunted ex-asylum didn't warn me off sufficiently, I have to say the old smallpox hospital is the icing on the spooky cake at number 8. Once again, in the middle of the East River stands the Renwick Ruins, where over 30,000 people died of smallpox. I suppose it made sense to treat people with a disease as contagious as smallpox on an island away from the majority of the city. Despite the area of quarantine, think what the dying people must have thought as they were trapped overlooking the city, filled with people they loved but they just couldn't touch. These days, the former 18th century Gothic-looking hospital stands completely abandoned and in ruins. Spotlights light up the terrifying old building at night, making it look extra specially dramatic. Locals don't feel good about the place, with many reporting ghostly sightings. The building's rep hasn't been enhanced by popular culture either. In Marvel's Hellcat, the hospital is taken over by a witch and her evil minions. This is a quirky little urban legend at number 7. We have Manhattan was sawn in half. What a strange urban legend, I really like it. So it goes that out there in New York City, once upon a time, part of the island of Manhattan was sinking. The story was told in scholar Benjamin Botkin's 1976 book, New York City Folklore. He said that in 1823 or 24, a contractor by the name of Lozier noticed that the southern end of Manhattan was going to sink. The only remedy, it seems, was to saw the island completely in half, turn around the southern half and reattach it. Elaborate. Apparently all of the labourers of New York got involved in the project, turning up in their swaves to save the city. Only it turns out when they turned up for work, it was all an elaborate ruse by Lozier, who had disappeared. Why is this scary, Rebecca? 2 reasons, really. Okay, so imagine if it was true and the only way to stop a city from sinking was to cut it in half and then reattach it backwards. I'd be worried. Also, imagine being convinced that the city was going to sink only to find out that it was all a cruel joke. You'd want to punch old Lozier, wouldn't you? What a card. Coming in at number 6, we have the Empire State Building being a car killer. Driving in New York City is scary enough, but in Manhattan, urban legend has it that the Empire State Building is a kind of Bermuda Triangle for cars. For some reason in 2008, it seems that cars started breaking down within a 5-block radius of the iconic 1930s landmark. We all know about Ford Mustangs on the observation deck of the Empire State, but has this car Juju sent out weird vibes to jealous on-road vehicles? The New Yorker even wrote an article about the phenomenon in 2008, saying that cars' engines would simply die and their locks would malfunction, but when they were towed away from the building, they'd miraculously work again. The AAA breakdown service was saying it was happening to at least 4 cars a day. Speculation has it that the weird Juju is actually coming from a giant cluster of antennas at the top of the building. Okay, next we're gonna have a little fun down on Coney Island at number 5. Legend has it you'll get stuck on the Coney Island cyclone. You may or may not live to tell the tale. Okay, not only may you get stuck, but you guys may also have to delete your footage of it. I love Coney Island. I went in 2016 and had all of the fun. In Coney Island's Luna Park, you can ride on one of the world's oldest roller coasters. This, honey, is still made from wood, which actually terrifies me on a whole new level. The 91-year-old roller coaster is an official New York City landmark and has only seen 3 deaths in the last 35 years, so, you know, semi-safe. That being said, it has garnered a reputation for being the most dangerous roller coaster in America. For me, riding an old roller coaster is scary because, I mean, it's old, wear and tear and all of that. Legend has it that if you ride this wooden dinosaur, there is a high chance you'll get stuck at the top. I didn't, but on Perez Hilton's website, he shared some snaps of some people that did. Terrifyingly, it seems that they had to walk down the tracks to safety. Worse still, there are rumors that the park will ask you to delete your footage if you capture a breakdown in action. Like, what is this? Nonetheless, I do still think it's worth a trip to Coney Island because it's really fun. Coming into number 4, we have the eerie legends of Grand Central's Whispering Wall. Grand Central is beautiful, isn't it? According to local legend, there is one part of Grand Central Station that you can stand in and hear a person whisper from the opposite side. It must be pretty spooky to stand in a place and hear a disembodied voice whispering beside you. Apparently, the phenomenon occurs near the Oyster Bar and restaurant, and if you're standing under 4 archways in the lower concourse, you are able to whisper to people 10 meters away. They can be facing the opposite direction and still hear you. This actually makes for perfect spy chat. Apparently, during construction in the station, something happened to disturb the acoustics, rendering the whispering walls defunct. Luckily though, now the construction's over, the whispering walls are back in action. Can you even imagine what has been whispered into these walls if walls could talk? I mean, I bet they'd have some juicy gossip. Coming into number 3, we have the Headless Ghost